Okay. Welcome all to the July 6th, 2022 meeting of the Dudley Board of Water and Sewer Commissioners. As always, we begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, because we're short a couple of members, I'm going to ask for unanimous consent to bypass items 3 and 4 on the agenda till next month.
Agreed. No commission, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Number 5, Robert Levine, Nichols College. You got the short straw this time. Huh? You're up early.
Make it good, Bob.
Either that or you got it in first.
Thank you for your time. I'm Bob Levine, I'm the Vice President for Operations at Nichols. I just wanted to come and talk to you about a project that we'll be putting in front of Planning Board next week. I think for some of you who know the campus, have been around for a while, back in 2007, we brought on what we'll refer to as the modulars, for those who may remember those modular type buildings. What we're proposing over will probably be a few years and a few phases is we want to replace those buildings. We want to construct what we're referring to as townhomes up in the, let me just get my bearings straight. So it would be the southwest corner of the campus, and I can show you that on a map where that is.
Up where the backup soccer field is? Or
Yeah, we call it the intramural. It's been called the intramural field. It's been called the rugby field. It's up behind.
Van Kuppenheimer?
Yeah, exactly. That's Lot N and up in the back there. Correct. So right now our goal is to permit for 2 of them, which would be approximately 52 beds. They're very typical townhomes, so each building will have 4 townhomes in it, housing approximately 5 to 7 students. Some of these have to meet handicap accessibility, so they range a little. But total occupancy right now on these 2 is about 52. Our goal is over the next several years, and it's liable to be, I mean, right now I can't even forecast, but it's liable to be many years out, is to get, as we get that built up, we want to take the modulars offline. We brought them in 2007, and I think there's about just under 100 beds within those 3 modulars. 2 of them are on one side of Center Road, and one's next door to Kuppenheimer, what we refer to as South Hall. And then we're also looking at repurposing Dudley. For anybody who's familiar with the campus, Dudley is one of our oldest residence hall and sits on top of Dudley Hill, as we refer to Dudley Hill. Between those 2, we have approximately about 175 beds we ultimately want to replace. We've looked at these buildings and we either repurpose a Dudley or tear it down. But we recognize that those beds need to be replaced. So that's kind of the first. This is what I wanted to come talk to you about. Again, about 52 beds. With any luck, we'll break ground possibly later this fall, if not in the spring, right, depending on permitting and getting through all of the approval processes. I don't know if anybody has any questions about.
So this isn't increasing.
This is not increasing. No, I'm not.
No, because you're replacing.
Yeah, and I'm not going to take them off immediately.
Yeah, right.
Like I tell you, if you take a look at our certificates of occupancy, all of our residence hall have an occupant. If you take a look at them, they total about 1,361. We generally operate around 1,000 beds on campus. That's generally what we operate. We don't ever go to that level. We generally operate, and I'll tell you, fall enrollment right now is looking to be about 800 on campus. So we're well below what we're capable. What I want to do is get a sense of community up there. I'd like to build a few more and then begin to physically remove those modulars. Like I said, right now we have slightly over 1,000 beds on campus, and again, we'll open up at about 800, and that includes even when we open these. Again, we'd love to get back up to the 1,000. That's where we really need to be, and we think by having townhouses and having this level of amenity, students would rather live in these types of buildings than in Dudley. And things like other modulars. So it's really also marketing, and you know what I mean? We have to compete with all the other schools. So it's really a long-term phase-out plan of those buildings.
Bob, will they use the main going up Lot End, right into the?
We would like to talk to you about that. Yeah, there is an 8-inch main that goes up to there's
It ends up
a
with a
hydrant.
hydrant.
There's a hydrant, right? Matter of fact, I just went up there to confirm it was there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all of our mapping indications with you guys, that's an 8-inch main. Yeah, that would be perfect to tap off of. It's the closest run. Yeah.
Is there a sewer main going up the hill, Bob,
Nope.
also?
Nope. We're gonna have to bring sewer all the way down.
Bring it down.
Yes, sewer would have to come all the way down and tie in just below South Hall
Okay.
and across the street from Remoulade. That's where our sewer crosses the road.
Okay.
Crosses the road, so we would be right in there.
And the buildings will require fire protection,
Yeah,
which is not a water user.
technically no, but we're obviously gonna put them in. We absolutely will put, and that's just a standard within the college. And any undergrads will always live in sprinkled buildings. I think the size of them. We've already met with fire, we'll put, full fire alarm systems and we'll sprinkle them. And I think fire would like, with your guys' permission, is we get a hydrant up that area by the parking lot. Because we will have a small parking lot adjacent to these. So put a hydrant up there. George, I sensed you were pondering a question.
No, I'm
Saw
not.
thoughts steam in there.
Yeah,
no.
I don't think I was ready.
Not for now.
So where are you, so you're asking for, basically for
Yeah.
permission
Yep,
to tie in?
yep. Figured I'd come talk to you guys. I got planning next Wednesday.
That's
So-
all private property. So the mains are all, we don't have a whole lot of control over what they put in. But,
Well, you do,
yeah, well, I'm asking,
They gotta be in the right spots, it's gonna
Yeah.
be a good run for them, same with the sewer, so they shouldn't have any big issues, just what the fire department ends up wanting to do up there. I don't think they'll put a circle on what's going on there.
So what we do with the sewer on the existing modulars,
They'll stay. We're gonna continue to use them.
I mean, when you demo,
We'll just stub them back to the main.
because I think we had concerns of I and I up in that area, right?
Down more towards the Black Tavern area, yeah, that's right there. And they're gonna be, I haven't had a chance yet, but Justin and I have been working on, going over all their sewer down towards the back of, Davis and that area there where we think there's problems. Checking all that, making sure, I think they're good on the north side, for what they have.
most of that's fair, except for like Olson. Of course, I'm going back, you may not call them that anymore.
Oh, we have an Olson.
Yeah, Olson and Kuppenheimer,
Mhm.
those are older buildings, but they've been rehabbed.
Correct.
They typically
mains are
rehab the
older.
building, but
Yeah, the
not the
mains,
sewer
the
line.
mains haven't been,
But
Yeah.
I would think that underground sewer line was a new, like, Schedule 35 plastic line from the building to wherever the sewer was, let's say, in 2007,
Yes.
you know?
Yep.
So that's, language-wise, relatively new.
Right.
Yeah,
okay, what's the,
I don't see any issue, so.
And I think it'd be good for everybody, new buildings on campus. Good for us as a water supplier.
okay, what's the,
So do you have any concerns? Like I said, we saw your head smoking there for a minute.
No, I was thinking of something, but no, that'd be further down the line if it does even develop.
just-
Oh, Mr. Chairman, do you want a motion?
yes,
I make a motion to give Nichols College approval to start for their two buildings, Bob.
That is correct.
Two, what do we call them, townhouse-style buildings. And along with that, we would supply you with a letter from our office that you can continue to use it as you travel through the town hall for different departments that you've met with the water and sewer department, and we're on board.
Second.
motion been made and seconded, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Unanimous, okay, so,
You can come see me after. I'll give you your letter and
Okay.
price schedule.
You want me to come back now or?
Yeah, now it's fine.
Okay.
Takes 2 seconds. I was prepared.
Of course you were.
Step ahead of the game.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Number 6, Jay Henriksen, 35 Chase Ave. I had it, it was all in good shape, I spilled coffee on it. Yesterday.
You got just to secure it for you.
Okay, you got it.
And this is just a pricing fee for the.
Well, this is
Okay,
the
yeah,
answer.
wonderful information.
You, sir?
Oh, no, you brought copies
For
too.
you, sir?
Thank you.
This is the,
They may make a habit of repurchasing.
oh, this is the new one, okay.
Yeah, so.
Oh, it's some of the same slides, okay.
Same slides, I thought I would
Okay,
give
yep.
just a brief introduction to kind of contextualize the project. Then we can talk about some of the specific challenges. So my name's Jeremy Henriksen. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Representing DMA Holdings, Greatest Hits. Our firm works as a owner's representative and project manager. Not specific to cannabis, but specific to very energy intensive and resource intensive projects such as this. So this, as you know, if you're not that familiar with it, roughly 200,000 square foot old mill building down on 35 Chase Ave. We're doing a pretty much a full renovation of the entire building site. And in going through it, we have encountered some challenges specifically on the energy side and secondarily on the water side. So wanted to take your time and discuss what it is that we're intending to do. We've got this graphic here. You can see what we want to do overall with the whole facility. So we already have a retail outlet that's been built. It's operational. You're welcome to come down and take a look. I could give you a guided tour if you like. Behind that, we've got manufacturing, processing. Ultimately, this type of a design came out of Massachusetts compliance requirements. Everything had to originally, with respect to cannabis, be fully vertically integrated. So you had to grow the product, process the product, and then sell the product on site. And you were allowed up to 3 dispensary locations. The law has been changed, modified over the past few years, such that we are able now to take wholesale product from other manufacturers, producers, and trades, back and forth, just like you would with any other commodity. So as you can see, we've got retail, manufacturing, we've got the old mill building that's gonna be largely office space, post-harvest processing. Down on the far right end, we've got cultivation, and we've got a big proposed mechanical installation over there as well. So that kind of gives you the big picture. We're going to be adding a new building, ultimately, probably within a year or two of the completion of this initial cultivation phase, which we're calling phase 2. Phase 3 will be the new building and add some additional load requirements. So,
The new building is gonna be in the center area?
yes,
that-
sir, exactly.
that you're gonna
Yeah, so
demolish.
it's almost like a U, right? Yeah.
Yep.
And that actually has been, we got authorization to do that approval last year. That's already come down, so it's a pretty much a raw site now.
Okay,
The real reason I'm here relates to our requirement for a special permit to utilize CHP, Combined Heat and Power, which is effectively, we're proposing to build our own power plant on the site using natural gas.
Cogen?
Yes, sir, yeah. So natural gas is a fuel source, reciprocating engine generators. The initial phase, again, phase 2, is going to have 3 1,200 kilowatt units, and then when phase 3 comes online, we'll be dovetailing in another 3. So the real kind of drivers from a project perspective behind those decisions were the lead time, the amount of electrical power that we needed to hook up to National Grid, to bring it all down. It's like substation level. They said 2 to 3 years, and they were giving us a ballpark of, starting at 4 million and going up. So the owners said that's a no-go, so we pursued this alternative pathway. It's good from a few perspectives, but it does mean that we have to go back in front of the planning board and request a special permit. So the second part of that is really where you come in, and it's understanding, and it's this is a good page to look at here, by the way, with this
Okay.
diagram.
Our original system, due to the fact that we're growing plants indoors, consider that we have to replicate everything that goes on outside, right? Inside a room that's not very dissimilar from this in terms of its scale. We use different materials, we use a very intense mechanical system to manage the environmental conditions of the plants. We use very intense lights to grow the plants to mimic the sun. And as a result, you're pumping a lot of water into the irrigation flow of the plants, right? We're removing about 80% of that water through the dehumidification process, the mechanical system. But our initial cut at full-scale operational requirement, and we shared this with George originally, was pretty steep. You can see over here, 179,000 gallons plus per day. So what we did was refine our original approach. We modified the major component, which is the cooling towers. We went from an evaporative cooling tower to a complete air-to-air exchange system. So there's no water required for that. The only water that we're going to be requiring are for irrigation purposes and domestic use purposes. So that brings me to the next page. You take a look at this graphic here. You can see we've got phase 2. That's the initial phase that we're talking about now. Phase 3 going to be coming online hopefully within a year of the completion of phase 2. And to give you a general understanding, we are completing our 100% CD and permit set by July 16th. We're working with the fire department, we're working with the police department, we're working with you. We're working with Conservation Commission. I met with Dickie out there on Friday to review everything that we're proposing. And we're gonna wanna start on this project in pretty quick order. So the irrigation demand, which is the largest demand, as you can see here, that's phase 2. We're looking at 6,200 to 16,000 gallons, roughly 17,000 gallons per day requirement. I know you've been doing some upgrades to the system, so what we try to do is of course act conservatively, and in our conversations with George, he wants to see the whole picture. So phase 2, phase 3, and that's that total combined irrigation rate, okay? So we're up to roughly 50,000 gallon a day requirement. If you turn to the following page, I included this because it shows you a breakdown of how we arrived at that understanding. And in short, the way we do it is we look at the entire facility, we break it down by room and function, we break it down further by square foot of the room, what's the overall area, then we break that down further into whether or not they're growing on a bench, on a rack. If it's a rack, it might have multiple tiers. So we quantify all of the canopy square footage, and then we do some math and we figure out how many total plants they could have. You can see that total plant category there, bench rack category, and the room canopy category. It's important to come from a couple of different points of perspective. Like I said, the lighting is critical, understanding how many plants is critical to understanding the mechanical systems and load, and ultimately the licenses from the Cannabis Control Commission, the compliance is driven by the square footage of canopy. So we have to make sure that these guys are within compliance and they're not going over based on their license. There are 11 tiers of license. You start at 10,000 square feet, they go up to 100,000 square feet, and these guys are right in the middle. So we're in safe territory there. The part that I want to bring to your attention is further to the right, where I've got 2 columns, irrigation daily minimum consumption and irrigation daily maximum consumption. So as you can see, again, simply carrying that over 6,200 up to 16,000. And then adding phase 3, and then coming down to the bottom block here, which is highlighted, you can see that's where I've consolidated the details. So we're looking at phase 2, we're looking at phase 3, and bulking that up with some additional assumptions based on maximum use, daily use again, in terms of irrigation runoff, domestic use, and thus deriving or arriving to this final cumulative total, which to me is looking like 53,000 gallons. You could say 55,000 gallons a day. So that's the first part. The first part is to bring that to your attention, ask if you have any questions about it. I'm not sure. We've had a very good rapport with George as we've been going through the initial parts of this project. So I think the objective is to understand whether or not the capacity exists to support this on a daily functional basis. The second part is, I think Jen printed out, and I've got some additional nutrient details. As we are growing the plants, they are using fertilizer. The growers are using a bunch of fertilizers. Some are organic, some are non-organic. So the question comes up then, what is acceptable to be put, yeah, exactly. And I think, from my understanding, water treatment happens in Webster, so I think there's probably some outreach, at least in our initial conversations, that we would have to conduct with them as well.
I believe the chairman of the Webster Water Sewer Commission is sitting right behind you.
Oh.
No, vice chairman.
Well, a member, so.
Good.
How convenient.
So I can say, I've worked on a number of these projects. I've built probably between 10 and 12 that are operational now. We've been involved with about 50 that were either cannabis specific or CEA, controlled environment agriculture, meaning everything up to large greenhouses, tomatoes, lettuce, fruits and berries, and we've got a very big customer in Canada that just is growing amazing stuff, in huge facilities, 60-acre facilities, one building, 60 acres. So we, in the state of Massachusetts, what we've seen with the cannabis stuff, because it's typically under tighter scrutiny, is it's on a town-by-town basis with respect to the sewer, the effluent side. Some towns have let us actually irrigate the lawn with us. Some have not. Some have said, this portion of this can go down stormwater. This portion needs to get remixed and filtered and whatever. So I'm not sure where you guys are, if we need to examine the bylaws, but again, just want to open the dialogue with you so that we know how we need to react to whatever your review and approval process is.
Okay, first question I have is, you're saying between 32 and 53,000 gallons a day.
Yes, sir.
That's a minimum and a maximum, obviously. Where do you foresee where in that range you would be most of the time?
It's a great question.
Reasonably?
It's a great question.
He
Yeah.
wants to be at the top, that means they get the most,
We want to
most
You want
production.
to get the maximum, yes.
We are, and the reason I did it that way, the reason I put in a bandwidth is, as the facility's coming online, it's not humming. Everything's not growing at the same rate. So we're going to have a ramp up process. But once everything is maxed out in terms of the rooms are full of plants, we're going to be up at that higher level.
So,
Yeah.
so it's not
We are.
really,
Yeah.
You're going to start here and end here.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yeah.
Just a question, Mr. Chairman, then. So we're talking maybe 50,000 gallons a day just for irrigation, and yet another 120,000 for cooling.
That would have been the case, but we have changed away from this
No,
evaporative cooling tower.
that's not the plan.
So that's completely off the
50,000 is the
table.
max.
Yeah. Yeah, what we did was, and I have another graphic that I can send over. I think I shared it with Jen, but I can print it out. So this cooling tower,
Yeah.
Mr. Spall, which you're right, you're spot on, has 150,000
Is that the
gallon per
revised
day
with
requirement.
22.5?
That's the same one.
Yeah.
That's the same one. This one. Okay, there's the other one.
Correct. So we eliminated the evaporative cooling tower process.
Just domestic wash down?
Yep.
So how much are you anticipating this going to the sewer?
That's another question that's gonna take a little bit of calculus.
So, I mean, the plant's gonna uptake some, the
Yeah.
aeration.
Correct,
so-
and we're working with the engineers now and the owners. Typically, what happens on these projects is everybody comes in with a wonderful attitude towards sustainability and renewable resources and all that stuff, and then we start to show them the price tag. as you know, solar can be expensive, or this CHP can be expensive. So it's a balance between the first cost of equipment, the CapEx, and the OpEx. That's relevant because what we're looking at right now, to your point, is a water reclamation system. So we're gonna capture as much of the condensate out of the rooms as possible. There is minimal effluent that's coming off the table. It's the runoff, if you will. So I've got that quantified in here. I mean, we're talking about 2,600 gallons per day. In the context of what the demands are, it's pretty light. So, does that answer your question?
Yes. And do you have any data on the loadings that will be coming out, nitrogen, phosphorus? Because I'm sure that's the biggest concern with.
Yeah,
With,
it's unique
like-
from facility to facility, and depending on what they're growing. The short answer is yes, we can get you that information.
So I would assume you'd wanna, I mean, the fertilizers aren't cheap, so I would assume
Yeah.
you'd wanna get it dialed in as much as you can so that the
Yep.
plants are uptaking as opposed to going out as wastewater. So-
We are, and we're actually having priced, and this kind of comes back to my previous comment, we're having priced a system now that would be recapturing the effluent off of the tables, this irrigation runoff, and reprocessing that. But when the customer's looking at something that costs $400,000 to $500,000, they're typically gonna say, can we put it down the drain? So, right.
Jeremy, a couple quick questions.
Yes, sir.
One is we talked about possible, and this is on your side, about supply tank.
Yeah.
Water supply tank, just
Like a
for
buffer tank?
redundancies, redundancies,
Yeah.
whatever in case something happens. And the other thing was a new water main around that neighborhood is an old 6-inch AC water main, which is really something we're playing with main breaks with it recently.
Yep,
And the other thing was it's now a PFAS world.
yep.
Not that you have to worry about it now, but any of your corporations have a town that has PFAS where you're gonna have to do filtration of that?
We are going to use reverse osmosis. We use reverse osmosis in all of our facilities. I'd have to check on the PFAS. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
It doesn't
it's-
touch it. You know more about it than I do.
Yeah, we've now been
Yeah.
protected with it with our treatment system, and they're growing. We have a new treatment coming in.
Yep.
So you're in good shape with that. But I know if they're off in other corporations that you do,
Yeah.
that it's going to become something that's probably going to end up.
I think throughout the state of Massachusetts, it's becoming an item
Yeah.
of discussion if it's not becoming something at the front end.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
So that's good. At least
all
we're-
United
you guys
States,
are
not
ahead of the
just
curve.
Massachusetts.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
So, yeah,
sure.
it's everywhere.
Yeah.
so that's kind of a good plus there. So
Yep, it's great. Yeah, typically the RO systems that we utilize are they're pulling, the things that these guys are looking for, heavy metals or chlorine. Chlorine is really bad for the plant, so they want to eliminate that. And we typically, RO is kind of the standard. We'll put an RO. Sometimes we'll piggyback UV on top of that, and then whatever else they want. But the RO is funky because it's, as you know, it changes in terms of its rate of return.
So I was gonna say, you generate a lot of waste off of them.
You generate a lot of waste, and you're exactly right. And the waste, the balance changes as the incoming temperature of water changes. So Massachusetts, it's an issue. In California, it's not an issue. So Massachusetts, we may have a 10-degree delta between spring and February, and it's going to have a much higher rejection rate on the basis of that. It's just because the durometer of the membrane.
and phase 3 is set to be finished in 2 years.
I would say 2 years from now, we're looking at an aggressive target that's been knocked back, project completion target. It's been knocked, all of our stuff is knocked basically back months because of the supply chain issues, and the cost of fuels right now is through the roof. So we're probably looking at a completion following the permitting, I would say, of 10 to 11 months. And that's with the wind at our back, so. And then to your question, phase 3 would follow it, 12 months after that. But it's a speculation game, so as far as the market can be supported in Massachusetts, and unless the federal government, decides to make a change, you're gonna see a lot of continued projects in Mass. Yeah. So. More questions?
Do any of your places have a pretreatment?
Some of them do. and some of them have post-treatment. It gets pretty expensive on both sides, so we typically like to work with the town as much as possible to see, and we do water testing, and then we work with our fertigation specialist to determine what level of treatment we're going to require. So.
Okay, so today you're looking for permission to tie in?
Yes, sir. Yep, and if you need more time or you need more information, happy to provide you with whatever data to follow up with.
Jamie, how will you do this tie-in? Because you have a line that goes in there now. I don't know, 8 or 10, I can't remember, as it goes in there, it's a
There's
CO.
a 2-inch water line, Jeff, that goes in. You know where the guard shack is, and you've got
Yeah.
like the one lower level there's a 2-inch water meter under one of the set of steps.
Yep.
Then there's that other meter we found over there at the restaurant, or lack of meter,
Yes,
Yeah, that
that's-
was done,
that is
yeah.
right, yeah.
for the racetrack
But he's-
area.
Yeah.
He's gonna
Not for
make,
domestic, I
Yeah.
mean, just for domestic.
yeah.
You will need a larger domestic water main, I assume,
Yep.
and then whatever you need for your fire protection.
Yeah. And fire protection, I mean, that's not on a daily usage, right, if ever.
Problem comes to be is, like I said, you only have a 6-inch in the road there, so even
Yeah.
if you go 8, we gotta do something with that.
Yep, yep.
I'd like to loop the whole thing in with a 12, because there's a 12 in Schofield.
So Schofield that's also Route 5, right? And then
Route 12.
Route 12.
12, okay.
Yeah, there's a,
Oh, I got you.
there's
I
a
know
newer
what it is.
12-inch
Yep.
there. I'd like to come in and loop and come.
Route 5's a little ways away
Take-
from here.
Okay, sorry.
That's a West Coast road.
I'd like to take that main around and loop it back up Brandon Road, because it
Yep.
dead ends there.
Yep.
Make a nice complete loop there, and you'll have plenty of good supply right there. You can run a main right into the building after that.
So how would that work from a customer standpoint? Would there be, I'll give you an example. Forgive my naivety. When we work with the utility, and we're doing this on the natural gas that we're bringing to this site, there's a customer contribution, right? And it basically gets baked into the duration of the period that they're going to be the customer. So it's amortized across whatever, 10 or 15 years. Is that how we could leverage that, or what would you need from us to make an upgrade like that?
Yeah, there would have to definitely be some good contribution there. We just finished some major projects up right now.
Yeah.
For the PFAS and that, so.
Yep.
We're trying not to put anything more on the rate users as we can right now.
Okay.
But in your case, with what you got going there, it would be almost a necessity to do that, to upgrade that like that. We could maybe work something out down the line, but, just
Yeah.
wanna let you know that whatever you do now, that area that you're being fed off of is a very delicate area, and it's
Yeah.
it's small. It's a small line, and it's dead-ended. So it's not exactly, something you wanna feed off of. You'd wanna,
Without tearing up the road and interrupting everybody's life over there, would there be an alternative to go across our property through to Schofield?
the only other way to do it would be, is to run a separate line,
Yeah,
through that Chase Ave. Still, you'd have to go through part of the road. But, like I said, it's not something we commonly practice. We like to, if we're gonna do it in an area, we'd like to rotate, connect the waters together.
Yeah.
Make a nice, so water's constantly moving. And a 12-inch, since that's 12-inch out there, 12-inch would be good.
Yep.
Coming around,
Yep,
it's not a long run, it's, but I don't have any details.
that will
as far
come
as the
down
cost or anything.
Chase and then go back uphill, or
Chase started, Schofield and
Brandon,
Chase.
or whatever that is.
Schofield and Chase, bring it down, around, run your line in from that 12.
Yep.
Come back around, go up Brandon, and tie it back into the 12. So it's a nice little loop going around.
Yep.
Do you know what your fire flows requirements are?
We did a hydrant flow test. I have the results. I can share them with you. I thought I sent them over. We did one last year, I think about this time.
Yeah, I
Maybe it was
don't-
in
I thought I
August.
might have a copy,
I
but I
honestly
don't
can't
remember.
remember off the top of my
But I
head.
mean,
We should have a copy of it.
what's your engineer's requirements for their fire flow?
Again, I'd have to check on that. Yeah, we did meet with the fire department, met with Paul and Dean. we're not gonna have to put in a pump, if that's the question.
No, I got
Well-
excessive pressure down there.
Yeah, so, but I'd have to get back to you on that, so.
Mr. Chairman, just on the superintendent's idea, an existing 6-inch AC line in the neighborhood is not a guaranteed water source. You've had several breaks. A new,
Just a couple weeks ago.
a new 8 to 12-inch, maybe you can get by with an 8-inch line with that type of pressure for cost savings, or,
8-inch you can get by, but you don't wanna, you kinda,
but,
The amount of money you're saving on
Yeah,
the
okay.
size of pipe is
But-
minimal.
but just the
It's the
theory of-
excavation and
Yeah.
all that.
just George's theory, a
Yeah.
new 12-inch loop, duct the line all the way around is good for 100 years,
Yeah.
no problems.
we just don't know where we're gonna be if we tie you into that line, if, you know, we've had issues there before, many issues. There's probably been about 7 breaks in that line from up all the way around, and we just, you know, it could interrupt your services for a while. We don't wanna see that.
Yeah.
Remember I had talked to you about that, if, you know, even if you wanna throw a tank up there or
Yep.
something like that, you know, this would give you a nice 12-inch knit, with good water turnaround, good water turnover.
Yep.
It's, you know, I know the costs, you know, are up, especially nowadays, but it's just something to think about.
So is the onus on our customer then to do that excavation and improvement to the line?
You'd have what?
Is it the responsibility of this incoming customer to do that?
No,
or-
it's not.
Okay.
Like I said, it's just, it's an idea of, you know,
Yeah,
we're putting the red flag out there that, you know, this could happen, this could possibly happen. You
Yep.
can do what you want. I mean, we're not gonna turn away a customer.
Sure.
We can tie you into a line.
yep,
I'm gonna have to reduce it to 6 that to tie in.
Yeah.
And you'd like to say we put an 8 in towards your building.
yep.
But, like I said, things could happen there. Could we put a separate line in? That's up to the board. I mean,
Yeah, I appreciate the insight, George, and I did appreciate it before, and we've looked at it. We look at all the systems in terms of redundancy and resiliency. So we're actually doing it on the natural gas side, where due to interruptions in the pipeline that are foreseeable, we have a buffer tank that we're putting in on that as well that's filled with LNG. So we could just basically truck in liquid natural gas, keep the burners going as we need to. So we can certainly continue to look at that on the water side
I
as
mean,
well.
at the lowest possible clod, maybe you can put one line, put an 8-inch in. We can just at least tie those customers up to your point.
Yeah.
For services, and look at it down a couple of years down the line,
Yep.
is running it in a loop to.
I guess
Or
the
we
question,
can,
yeah, I guess the
we
question,
just can't absorb anything right now at the moment. We're just
Yeah.
coming off of major projects right now. But, you know, I don't want to see you guys get anything, but if you want to keep that in mind,
Yeah.
with the board's blessing, maybe we can do something on that
Sure.
behalf, you know.
Well,
It's
what do
not a
you-
long run to it's just a street to your
what do you
building.
guys need from us in addition to this? I mean, this is, from where I'm sitting, it looks like it's a big user, right?
Yeah.
You know, so that's a big invoice, a monthly invoice. What additional data would you need from us to move that decision forward, or at least investigate it further?
I mean, right now, you're operating with what you have for a line going in there.
Yep,
I would say hold off right now, but as we get further on into your usages, maybe we could sit down and have another meeting of what maybe you can do to help put something in like that, so at least we can get that initial part of the street done, tying
Yeah.
those people there, then you're good as far as you go.
Sure,
You're
sure.
not gonna have any issues, and, you know, down the line, maybe something will happen, and whatever to help with that, but it's not at least your part is done.
yeah,
And you guys are,
Yeah, it's
you know,
empty.
okay.
even if it's over to, Office Hill, and then stop it there,
Yeah,
you know.
well, I appreciate that. I mean, I think, you know, we would have to understand what the commitment looks like from our side.
Yeah.
In order to make that determination.
That's what
So-
I'm saying, just some
Yeah.
food for thought, that I'm giving you all the, you know, we've had numerous issues as far as getting this water system back in where it should be. And
Yeah.
it's still continuing.
Gotcha.
And everybody thought they were saving big bucks back in the years they ordered this pipe, and now we're paying the price.
Right, right,
So-
okay.
Yeah, so we wouldn't be ready to move forward on it tonight, because
Yep.
obviously we need more data. We need to talk to Webster about the wastewater discharge. So we would need the constituents of the wastewater, if you can get us data on that. If you get the fire flow requirements,
Yep.
just so we can kind of get our design to figure out what you would need for a main there
Sure.
to make sure it has the capacity.
We've got copies of some of this information here.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll put together a data pack with everything kind of bundled, so,
Bob, I did give all of that,
In the email,
I did give that to Mike, sewer operator, and he said he was gonna go over and speak with Webster regarding everything and see if they needed more, if that was sufficient or not.
okay. Thank you, Jen. What additional information, sir, if any?
I think that would,
Okay.
that pretty much covers it right now, but I
Yes.
think the other things I can send them out to you.
Okay. As far as timing goes on that, you know, we do have an aggressive push to get this special permit, at least in process. Just give me an understanding that your board meets every couple of weeks or once a month, or?
Usually once a month, but we did get on
We are
Every-
Okay.
starting to meet every
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Okay. As summer's winding down?
As we can.
Okay. All right, super. So constituents on the
Wastewater
effluent,
discharge.
what's going into the sewer system, fire flow data, our hydrant test. And I'll send over, we did an underground site survey. So I've got all the information on the lines that are coming in, going out and everything over there, so I'll send that over too. Okay. Thank you, I appreciate your time.
Do you have any typical contractor agreements that you have for when you do developments like this? A typical contractor agreement with a town?
I can look at some of our past projects and see what we've got. Yeah, I'll dig into that. Okay.
All right, just didn't know if you had a standard one that you typically use, or.
It depends, I mean, it's town by town basis and depending on the work and the scope involved, so I'll take a look and see what we got. But any other questions, or?
I'm good for now, so we can go through everything.
All right.
And this is your contact info here?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
fine.
we got cards all over the place here now. There's one inside each folder too.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is. Okay. May as well give you one after. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Pass one over to Webster.
Unbelievable.
Have a good evening.
Thanks, Jeremy. Thank you.
Nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you.
Okay.
Well, you picked a good night to come.
Okay, Paul Brinkman. Webster Truett. Thank you. And if you haven't signed in, if you could just sign in.
All right. So, tell you what I've come up with so far. You may have, this sheet doesn't look the same, but it's essentially the sheet that was sent to
The
you.
original.
Okay,
And I reordered and, conducted my own calculations and in areas have done new interpretations. So what I did with this is the one that was prepared by Webster kind of mashed capital in with operation and maintenance.
okay,
And originally, the agreement was set up that they were handled in separate buckets, so that you had operation and maintenance and replacement in one bucket, and then capital is a separate one. Well, in 2013, when they started doing the true-ups, the first two, they don't acknowledge the differences, or the two, the capital side of things.
The two
But from
buckets.
2013 on, they did. And so what I did is I tried to create a uniform format across. And if you go down from the top here, I don't know if you want me to go line by line, but essentially I'm coming up with the number that we dedicate to operation and maintenance that would be your O&M payment, that $462 that you've been paying every year. And so that's about mid-page. If you go down that,
Underlined?
yep, so we have net miscellaneous revenue. So that number there, that in the first column in 2011 is $2,085,000. And if you look all the way over to 2020, it's 1.9 million. That's extremely efficiently run, I have to say, given all the cost changes that have occurred in the system up to that point.
So that's
Essentially what the core operation of the plant is. You know, it's
Okay.
parts and supplies and utilities and sludge and all that kind of stuff. If you want, I can go line by line or not. One of the things to note, which was a concern to me, indirect charges, that's about midway through that block. The first number in the row is 410,000. So we take out the whole amount that they charge off to indirect, and then we add in an amount that was part of the contract, the IMA that was developed, that said there are certain areas of cost that Dudley doesn't get benefit from. So we split those out and we only add in the ones that Dudley gets benefit from. So if you look at that 410 across, it's grown in 2020 to 647, which was considerable. And I
Big jump from 19.
yeah, and looking at that, that's largely related to pension costs and the retirement system costs. The other costs that are come out of there, you know, assessor's office, selectman's office, you know, all the different people that get charged off to the wastewater department have changed, but not dramatically over the time period. So that was of note. And again, the numbers that I put here, I felt comfortable with in terms of what was being presented. I didn't get the backup except for 2020, and I had some old backup from a while ago. They had linked their spreadsheet, and when they sent it to me, it was like internet links, and they didn't work for me. And I said, they don't work for me, and they said, well, it's all there in the summary. And I said, well, I wouldn't mind having the backup. And so here's one, and I got the one. So looking at the order of magnitude of the numbers that are there, I felt comfortable with them. You know, there was nothing that popped out at me. You know, could there be $1 here or there? I didn't think it was worthwhile. Going down here though, so we have this 4-line block here, Dudley share 457, and then your payment was 462, which didn't change over the years. And then I did a cumulative credit underpayment, so I matched that out year over year. And if you look at that across cumulatively, you know, you overpaid on that line there. If we only look at operation maintenance and not replacement costs and other things. So when we start adding those things back in, we have a line for replacement costs, which I took, and if you look at these next pages, these are all their capital projects, okay? And I went through and I said, okay, here, it's hard to read. The second page is all of them, but the first page I tried to at least give you an idea of which ones. So yellow ones were not related to treatment. Blue ones, I said, they're clearly treatment. And then I had these red ones that I'm calling questionable. Because they're things that, you know, it's not clear from the description that they are completely a cost to treatment. And in some cases, I wasn't clear that they were even a cost. For instance, if you look at the bottom, there's a SCADA computer, and that shows up a couple of times. And they spent, at least according to the information provided, $500,000 on computer SCADA at the treatment plant in the last 2 years. And that at least without seeing invoices and stuff, it's something I wanna look at, because it's a pretty big number for that kind of stuff. So, this is essentially going down the line of what I included. So what I did is the blue lines I carried over, and they have a column that's a new facility and a replacement column here under the treatment each year. And I said, okay, this is new that I'm okay with, here's replacement that I'm okay with, and then questionable in each. So I carried those numbers over. You can see across the board for the years provided up to 2019, the ones that I was okay with. I also had a separate sheet for 2020 that I pulled the numbers in on as well, and those got carried over onto this front page. And so you can see I have replacement cost line, and then Dudley share. Now replacement costs are paid out at your flow ratio, because that's something that's already there. It's a pump that was there, it's just replacing that pump. And then new capital is paid out at your percent of the plant that you're responsible for, 17%. And so you run those numbers over. So I had a total amount that was allocated to Dudley for capital replacement, the new capital and the replacement costs. And then I have here, you see the two green bars, and then you have the payments that were made by Dudley, the treasurer, directly over. So this is where things got a little confusing, because they weren't in the same bucket before, they were managed separately. I think this is appropriate to do now, but it's how do we make sure that the transition worked cleanly? And that's why I have these two green boxes here. I don't have any records relative to that, so that may be something that we wanna go talk to the treasurer and see what was paid, and then acknowledge that. And acknowledge if there were any bond payments that they went to. So that we're truing it up, because essentially the bond payments that were being made, there was a schedule set, and then Webster changed the way that they were gonna implement their projects. They said, we're gonna make a much smaller master project, and then we're gonna do smaller projects every year. And so that's why we ended up with a longer schedule. We end up with a real long list of projects here, as opposed to one or two big projects. So if you go to right the second to last block there, I essentially add together the two cost centers, the operation and maintenance costs, and the total of the
So we still overpaid by 100,000 right now.
this is based on my
These two
view
are-
right now.
Right.
And that's through 2020, it doesn't include 2021. I did ask for 2021, it doesn't appear that it's been prepared. They sent me essentially their expense sheets and said, here's everything. And I don't know if I was being asked to populate it or not. I didn't want to do that without, again, talking with you guys. So this is, and at the bottom, we have those questionable costs that, like, for instance, 2013, there was 50,000, and it's for a vehicle. In the past, vehicles have been pretty much pushed to the collection system, because you don't need a lot of vehicles to drive around at the plant. And this was 50,000, and it's a really round number, and it's for a hook loader truck, whatever. I'm not familiar with the term, so and again, do we want to investigate further, or do we want to ask them questions, or, this is kind of why I'm here, to get an idea what approach you'd like to take relative to this. But this is kind of what I came up with looking at the numbers and the data that was provided.
So this front sheet is just a removement, you took what was
Their numbers,
provided
and
just
I
put them into
put
a
them in an
format.
order that made more sense to me relative to the IMA.
But they're
They're largely their numbers.
Their
The only numbers that aren't exactly the way they did is from replacement costs on down, because I didn't necessarily carry the number that they carried. I looked at, this is their capital spreadsheet here.
Yep.
And I looked at this and I said, based on the description, do I feel comfortable with this being a treatment plant cost, or is this a collection system cost? Or could it be a split cost, and it, based on the language? SCADA, a lot of times SCADA is for pump stations, so, they showed,
Radio read devices, those are
Right.
obviously for meter reading.
but if you look at 2019, on that SCADA line, they showed 250,000. in the 2020 book that I have, they have 219,000 that was spent on skating again. So was the 250 actually spent, or was it an estimate? And it, got put here. Again, the guys that prepared this initially are accountants, and they're not necessarily, I looking back through the emails, they were communicating, but again, you're looking at 10 years of records. It's easy to kind of go, yeah, that's like this, and I guess that's why you wanted me to take a look at this ultimately.
So where do we go from here? Where, in your eyes, where do we go?
Well, I
from
think there's a couple of paths. There could be one where we say, all right, do we want to nail everything down exactly, or do we want to say, the other is, here's what we're seeing here, and do we? And this is what happened in the past. We had our vision, they had their vision, and we kind of met in the middle. And whether or not that's an approach to take here, or do we want to spend more time kind of drilling down and filling in these numbers? Because I don't know if Webster's feeling like you guys owe them a lot of money way back when it was, you owe us $1 million, and we came to a point where they owed you 200,000. So it was a different view. I don't know if they're in a place now financially kind of saying they've underpaid, they haven't, we really need to get every penny out of it. And so, all right, we're going to spend the next few months kind of nailing every one of these numbers down, and the number's going to be what it is. But it's, again, effort on their part and our part ultimately. Right. Do they get to that? Do they feel comfortable with that? Either way works for me. And either way, at the end of the day, it's, we come up with a number, both say at the end and say, we're happy with this number, and they're happy with this number, and, that's what it'll be. But it's up to you guys to kind of say, that's the path, or we really would like to see more of the numbers pinned down, the questionable ones put in the right buckets.
I'd like to see the questionable costs anyway, just at least have the conversation as to, why.
Right now
thought
they're
they should
not
be
included. Right now they're not included in this
Right.
They're
vision.
not included
based
on the
on
front
the-
page.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, they're included at the very bottom,
Right, but I didn't allocate
they're
them.
not-
They're
they're
not
not added into
allocated
the
to
number.
anything.
but that number offsets, like if we overpaid by 100, there's the potential there to go 100 the other way.
Correct.
So we
Correct.
just, we need to get that number down to figure out and make sure everybody agrees whether it should be included or not included.
But, and what I would, at the same time, we would probably want to do that with the numbers that I'm okay with as well, because
Right.
if some of these are budget numbers, and that's my concern when I'm looking at these columns, numbers don't usually come in at
50,000
exactly, or
250,000.
zero, or double zero, or whatever, so it's like, all right, and I have backup sheets to some of these, and they say estimated, it's like, why are we estimating for a true-up?
Right.
We shouldn't be estimating for a true-up.
Right.
So, I guess there's a process to get there. I can see a couple of different ways of doing it. Kind of getting, this is somebody's work up here. It's not an original, here's our, spreadsheets out of Munis or whatever they're using for accounting. And here's the account numbers and all that, and then drilling through that and saying, okay, these were the actual expenditures given here, and these are the actual debt payments, that kind of stuff.
Is it Tim that gives all the data? The accountant?
Tim, yes, he's the guy that I was communicating with in the fall and over the winter.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's 700,000 at questionable. And if all was at 17%, you're looking at, 120 or, these are a lot of replacements, so say it's 20%, you're looking at, 140,000 swing, if it was
That's what I mean,
all
yeah, and
appropriate.
It comes out to where it could be one way or the other at that point.
Correct.
Oh, so yeah, so those questionable costs would be at
They would, if it was
17%.
deemed that it was appropriate to put them in one of those buckets up
Right.
above, that would lower
Swing
down,
that number,
you know,
yeah.
that cumulative credit.
Right.
And then we'd be looking at 17% of that.
But again, I have those two green bars there, and, you know, it might be appropriate if
To
you
get
guys
those
had
two
debt
numbers,
service payments then, you know, put them in there. Because you were paying debt at that point.
Okay, yeah.
Like I actually,
So those two
their
numbers we gotta get
spreadsheet,
from
for
it.
instance, if you look at the replacement cost line, a little bit past the middle, it's 60%. If you look at 2012, it's 125,000. That wasn't in the spreadsheet, but I found that in an older spreadsheet, and I said, well, this is the data I have. You know,
Right.
I want to put down, you know, what I know, and that's a known number, so that counted against you to the tune of 27,000.
Yeah.
But, you know, again, I want to do this as right as possible.
Yes.
I mean, I think it'll go a lot smoother if we're doing this annually instead
Yes.
of a 10-year block.
10-year.
Yeah, that was anticipated, and I didn't
Yeah.
include, there's a $500 per month fine that can go in here, and
Yeah.
it can wipe out stuff really fast. A lot of this stuff, you're supposed to be told about beforehand so that you can react and understand, so that, you know, we don't get to the end and go, you know, what is this item here?
Yeah.
There was a lot of money that was spent out of the budget on direct capital. And there's no backup for that. So if you look at direct capital lines, the fourth line down after the sewage flows, that was spent right out of their budget every year on just stuff that, you know, some of it's on these tables and some of it isn't.
And I would assume that things will probably go, you've had a board for what, 2 years now?
Yeah,
Yeah, so,
if I can speak.
Sure.
I think, you know, part of the goal is to, I mean, there's been a lot of time spent by everybody involved to try to figure this out. And we
Absolutely.
still haven't gotten there.
it's a lot to absorb, and if you guys have only been on board for 2 years, you're learning while you're doing it.
Right, but I still see things aren't communicating, you know, between the consultants and
Right.
the town accountant in a way that's,
But the,
agreeable to all. It raises as many questions as it answers,
yeah,
it sounds like to me.
and I know in the 10 years, there's been an awful lot of turnover, and there's been different people involved,
I
and
think that's part of
different
it.
town administrators, and the accountant went to town administrator, then went, and then, yeah, so.
No, and I know that over the years, you guys, we've reached out and said, hey, what's up? And it would just kind of fall deathly, which that's part of the turnover
Well,
that you
I
guys
think
had.
since 2017 or 18, we've had a town accountant that, Tim, has been providing stuff on, he was late 1 month since 2017 in providing, meeting the time limit, the time
Yep.
requirements in the contract. Prior to that, I can't answer.
Do we know where he's sending those to?
Well, he's sending them to, that's why I've gone through, the town account, your town treasurer.
Okay, so, Rich.
So, see, that's, you know, and it doesn't say in the contract, part of my goal is to revisit that contract.
Right, yeah,
And make it workable and get everybody what they need so that you're not spending tons of money on consultant, we're not spending tons of money on consultant, and this is a much smoother annual true-up.
right.
Keeps food on the consultant's tables, though.
Yeah, I know, and there's still a job, but.
We'd rather pay him $1,000 a year instead of.
I think that's what I'm up to now, so. No, you should be able to do this if you get into the rhythm.
Right.
You shouldn't need anybody.
On an annual thing, it
You
should
shouldn't need
just be a
anybody. When you
quick,
go, all right,
Right.
just give us a once over.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
fine.
show us
Actually,
your
it
numbers,
should
we know
take
what we.
place in a matter of weeks if, you know, once.
Correct,
the
correct,
process,
correct.
Right.
Not,
I mean, I do apologize that it took me a long time to get to this point
yeah,
here.
yeah. No, I
Um,
can understand a change in the system.
Okay, so.
And I know there was some issues with the prior accountant
Right.
trying to handle being the accountant and being the town administrator.
Well, I think that's where it went astray in 2013 and so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I mean, I heard about a lot of the issues with
yeah.
that whole thing and why she wasn't town administrator.
So what we need to do then is,
I mean, I guess I want a general idea of your approach. Again, there's different
Get this
ways of
website.
looking at it.
Like I said, I think the logic flows for me. All your numbers I would like some clarification on the questionable items, you know, like radio reads.
And how do we communicate that?
Right, so,
So I can come up with, you know, I think there's information that maybe you guys can provide as far as the Dudley payments on the capital
right, the
side.
two green,
The two green boxes.
We-
It would actually be good to verify them all the way across. Because maybe there were 2 years, I know that the first bond issue ended right around here.
right,
But I believe the second one came, boom, right away.
Right on top of it.
Right on top of it, so it wasn't like there was a break at all.
right.
So-
That's how the accountants typically like to do it. They don't like that up and down, so
Right.
it's like,
Well-
oh, it's ending, let's add to it.
Right, right. And so I can, you know, we can get that on our side, and I can put together a few questions relative to, but again, this is, how far do you wanna drill with this stuff? And that's kind of up to you.
Personal, I'm only one vote, but personally, I'm not into,
Belaboring.
you know,
yes.
fighting over
I
pennies.
was just saying, I don't
Yeah,
wanna
it's
spend
just-
$1,000 on
Yeah,
consulting
yeah.
hours to try to
Yeah.
track down the last couple dollars.
To get a couple dollars.
Right,
yeah.
no, and
So-
that's the way I
You
am
don't
as
want a
well.
per-
Like,
you don't want a
the
perfect
accountants will never
balance
say
here.
that. They'll never,
Right.
this is the number, it is the and it's like, really, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Here's the
I'm
fun-
like that, I just also have the common sense part of it, so.
Right.
Yeah, reason, this is a case of reason.
Yeah, so,
Okay,
If I can, again, I'm more concerned about getting the communication cleaned up so that the questionable things, while you don't wanna dive into them and, you know, dissect them apart, but we wanna fix it so it doesn't reoccur.
Right, and a lot of that is, you know, all right, we're looking at a description that someone put into a capital project, and you're
we have a-
counting, and you're like,
copy of
okay,
this?
what was this? That's gonna be a hard thing. And ideally, the IMA provided for, okay, you say, here's the stuff that we're putting in our budget for next year, and now, we get that and go, okay, what is this? And we know before it's built,
Yeah.
where the money's gonna go
Okay, and
to.
it is your treasurer, the one that our accountant should be
Send that
communicating
over.
with.
Well, he may be part of it, but not really, you know.
Right,
Because
that's what I
the
mean.
treasurer's,
I think-
his responsibility is to make a
I think
payment.
to be honest, I think the communication should be
through the board.
through
the
the
board.
through the
Yeah.
water sewer office.
Yeah.
And then that portion of it that is supposed to go down there, we would push
Sent
down.
to him.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Just because it sounds like information was getting
It
to Dudley and then it
stopped
was.
there and then didn't get
It
carried on,
it
right?
didn't get, it didn't get up the stairs.
I mean, they were not,
that's-
the
we're
treasurer wasn't
constantly-
involved in the
We're
IMA
constantly
at
asking,
all.
and it's there in the office,
Yeah.
right?
And
Yeah,
that's
he-
another point in the contract that doesn't say where it goes.
There may very well be a file downstairs with all this information sitting there,
It's
and we've just never seen it.
just about 20 years old, I
I
think.
was gonna say, it's
pretty
coming
close.
up almost on its end of life anyway at some point.
But it
so-
doesn't mean it couldn't
Well,
But you could extend
be
it, right?
adjusted beforehand.
Back then too, Paul, 2011, 2013, the sewer department was on its own. It wasn't combined with the Dudley with the water and sewer
Right.
departments together, you know, so who knows what happened then?
Yeah.
Okay, so if we can, do you have another copy of this?
Yep.
That we
I
can,
got two more.
Yeah, so
Yeah, I can share it with,
if we could give him one,
Again,
or
this
two.
is my
your
view
work
right
yes,
now.
Yes, I understand.
And
And then-
then someone may go, oh, they completely missed the boat. Okay, well, then
Then
tell me how I missed the
we
boat.
can, yeah,
Through the committee, through the two commissions,
Right.
communication,
Right.
you'll in turn communicate.
Correct,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
sure. If we can get the information.
So what I'd like to do is get 21 done. We can
Yeah, and
figure out,
I thought,
all he sent, I went back through all my emails,
yeah,
and the only thing that I got from Tim was, here's our accounting records. And it looked like, my guess was at the time, they'd finished 20 and they're like, well, let's hold on and see how we get, that's what I'm
that might,
guessing
yeah, you might be
happened.
right there, yeah.
And then, all right, let's see how we're gonna get this done, and then we'll add 21 in.
Yeah.
And we're almost like, we're done 22 technically now.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay,
we
and-
can't really true up until
So-
October,
So
but
Tim should get you 21,
if he's actually done the
yeah.
stuff, and again, to really understand these capital
Yeah.
projects and stuff, I may have to have their conversation. Most of it is fairly recent that I was troubled with, not much of it is that old, but,
And the figures, it's not only the description of the capital, you don't know if it was money actually spent or.
right, 'cause one of the things I saw was the sewer data, it said estimated, and I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, and then
And
the next
estimated
year,
would
it
be
was a
true.
big number, and $500,000 on skate is a real lot of
Yeah, I
money.
was gonna say.
It's a
I've done
real
several
lot of money in
skating
2 years,
systems.
even
That's a lot.
250 is a lot of money. You know, you could be doing a lot, and if it's saving us O&M money, wonderful, you know, because your O&M has been well managed, I have to tell you that.
The email is sewerwater@dudleyma.gov.
Okay.
Alphabetized. To me, it's always been water sewer,
That's how I
but
always
for
say
some
it.
reason,
You could
the
have-
IT
you
guys
could have them
decided to
both,
flip
you
them
know.
over.
It's sewer water, all one word.
Sewerwater, one word, @dudleyma.gov.
So I will come up with a list of thoughts, especially relative to that questionable stuff, just so that we can make sure it's in the right bucket.
Sewer water.
Like when it's printed on,
I'll
printed
have to change
backwards.
Oh, yeah. Either way, water sewer is set up to forward to it.
We're water sewer, and you're sewer water.
We're sewer
Yeah.
water.
You gotta change the print on that, Jen.
I will.
On the letterhead, yep.
I don't know why they changed it.
Yeah, I don't either.
Because water sewer sounds natural.
Doesn't it?
Yeah, you use the water before you fill
Yeah,
the sewer.
It's the flow.
Anytime you
makes
ever
sense.
see it, it's always water sewer.
I know, trust me, I know.
Only in Dudley. Okay, so, thank you. We've got a good,
Good feel for it now. Yeah.
good,
I
and
think we're getting close.
thank you. It's good that you showed up, that
Yeah, I'm just trying to
we can
get it going.
get stuff moving so that we
We
can,
don't have to spend
you know,
15 hours on
Yeah.
it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we'd certainly like for it to be a
and we
a
can cut our
smooth
agenda
process.
items down a little bit.
All right,
Okay,
good?
good.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
Tie and bond. I think you're gonna cover up just about everything else that we have here.
Good night.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Mr.
yeah.
Ward.
Okay,
Good evening,
good evening.
Jeff Faulkner from Ty and Bond.
How we doing?
Good. The first item I see on the agenda is a plumbing change order for pump station number 1. I didn't have anything prepared to present on that, but I know that was submitted a few months ago and just waiting for some communication back so we can move forward.
Okay. So I can only speak to a couple of conversations I've had. And it just, the rationale of taking we've had this conversation before. The rationale of taking we just spent 1.2 million, you know the numbers, to cut water coming out of I to prevent clean water from getting into our system. And now we're being asked to spend $32,000 to put clean water into the sewer system. And it on something that is, as at least as I understand it, and as is being portrayed, once we get all these projects done, is not really going to be necessary. I don't know, that's my take. I don't know if, we've had conversations with others that, a sump pump can be pumped out to open air. I understand it's on the well field, so we'd have to pump it away, but, it seems like there would be cheaper, easier ways to deal with this. Anybody else care to?
Mr. Chairman, the question is, once the main station is in operation and all three of your pumps are running, you won't need anyone physically working in that building. That's the whole idea. That building is not going, no one's going to be in there doing anything, right? Except an occasional sample from a little petcock?
Well, once a month they'll sample and.
Sample inspections of everything.
You gotta go get numbers every day, floating
Yeah.
numbers and everything, but.
I mean,
But
I
will you have chemicals in that building, or is it just strictly raw
It'll be
water?
chemicals in the building, but in the future, it would only be strictly gonna be raw water
That's
coming
what
out
the
there.
whole idea
The
is raw
chemicals is-
water to work its way down
I'm
to the plant.
maintaining the chemical feed pump structure in there in case there's a problem, like
And
I
you have
did,
to do
thank
it.
God, on the other
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
So if we have to use it again for feeding and separately, we can do it.
So,
But
the
otherwise, it's.
million-dollar question is, do you in fact need a true plumbing system in that lower level?
That I can see.
The only thing we do have, you have groundwater. You have a lot of groundwater there. Where's that going to go? Because Dankris ran the pump line all the way around the building, and what did he tie it into? The
He
sewer
didn't-
line?
Well, he didn't do it
He
yet.
didn't do it yet, he didn't,
He ran a line, but it's not
yeah, but he
connected
ran
to
in
anything.
anticipation of this one connecting in to the sewer.
So where's that sump pump go now?
Right now, outside, out to the back,
Pumps out to the
out
ground.
to the ground.
So the question is, do we need plumbing in the building? Simple as that.
So there's a couple layers to that. Your building is an old building. It's, I forget what actual year it was built, but it's like 80, 90, 100 years old.
That's
So
a
if I had to guess,
1909.
probably 1909.
1909,
1909
110 years old. So they've got some antiquated materials, plumbing. The room we're talking about is like a three-layered or three-level room, entrance, mid-level, and a basement, essentially. All of the existing floor drainage is channeled down into the basement and down into the sump. So in my personal view, that sump acts not only as a groundwater point, but it also acts as a floor drain for the entire building. And you're not in a residential setting, you're in a commercial industrial setting. So I can check back with our engineers and our building folks, but I believe that is considered an industrial building where floor drains are not allowed to be discharged outside because they could have any variety of contaminants in them. And
True,
you have an
true.
extra layer in that your backyard is a water supply protection area. So if I asked the DEP engineer who approved the permits for this project whether they would allow a building floor drain system that is a three-level room, which can have any level of contaminants pumping into a sump, where the sump pump pumps into your zone 1, I'm pretty sure that they would say, no, that's not allowed. So your groundwater issue, I think, could be a separate project. I understand the comment of removing II from the system. You want to set a good example for the residents in not putting II back into the system. That can be addressed through a building foundation repair project, but that would be, a big ticket item in its own right.
Do you know who the engineer that's reviewing these plans are?
Say that again?
Do you know who the engineer at DEP is that's reviewing?
Kate Conaby.
Oh, I know she'd let you get away with it.
Yeah.
Because I've already had that conversation with her.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you are right from some level that a truly clean water in a pump station that is just analyzer waste in a reagentless analyzer system, or a sample sink that is only meant for sampling water, is allowed to be discharged outside the building. Myself, as your engineer, caution you that I don't want you to become the future contaminator in providing a future PFAS-style issue to the town.
Because you do have an eye wash station down there.
There's the eye wash shower,
Chemicals are introduced,
Yeah.
filth,
Yeah.
waste could go
Yeah.
into that pump and back into the ground. You don't want that happening. The results of the eye
I
wash
get it.
station being
And
used.
it's the potential water treatment chemicals as one potential, but it's also lubrication oil, it's grease, it's dirt, it's grime it's considered to be in an industrial setting. That's why.
Well, hence, that's why the commercial soil pipe, et cetera, comes into place.
Yeah.
Copper tubing and
Yeah.
cast iron soil pipe, because then because it's not considered a single family or
Okay.
a multifamily
Right.
So-
PVC application.
So this has been dragging on now since April, and I still, can we get something in writing or something concrete from,
I've hesitated to ask DEP the direct question on this specific project, but if you would like me to, I would be more than happy to.
So, I mean, I don't have it with me, but I could get you the citation shall cite, saying that you're supposed to discharge outside the zone 1. If you can, and then if you can't, they say to try to get it at least 100 feet away, if possible.
Yeah.
So, I could say that I would feel fairly confident that she would give us whatever waiver or whatever we need to avoid discharging to the sewer discharge, because they're also against that, so.
Yep.
it's just
But
one thing weighing against another,
If
and
you would like us
Right,
to,
so-
to do that, we certainly can.
in a couple of years' time, that's all gonna pretty much, we're just,
Be
water's gonna be pumped
deactivated.
through the building
And
and
out the
it's
door.
gonna be gone.
Yeah,
and we're not
a
gonna
couple
be
of years'
doing
time
anything.
doesn't mean
Right.
anything for me, because it will be an active well pump station that is still an industrial building, still has lubricating oil in it, everything I'm saying doesn't change in 2 years.
What do we have for lubricating oil in the pump station?
Maybe it's not lubricating oil, but any kind of
Grease fittings.
greases, grimes,
Some of
that is
stuff.
considered.
Grease fittings on
Well,
it?
what is it?
No, they're not in those. No,
Not any of that.
That's all gone.
The pump set-
Once the chemical feed system is gone, yeah.
Even the chemical feed system, I mean, the tanks are in a contained area.
So is the pumps.
The building code doesn't make an exception for a particular pump station, it's just black and white.
Right.
Yeah, well, I'm
For
just saying
industrial
that,
buildings.
just looking at the argument of potentially causing a contamination or something, so. I know at one point there was the discussion on if somebody gets chemicals spilled on them and they use the eye wash shower.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a simple fix by adding a flow
I
switch
got
to the.
ice
You-
soaked and I ain't even doing the outside.
So if,
Awesome. I can make it.
to me, it would be a lot less expensive and and it wouldn't, that shower gets activated,
It
it automatically
kills the
shuts,
power to the
kills the
sump.
power to the sump pump, which cannot be turned back on until somebody.
That is one
and then-
situation.
And then we get a
that-
cleanup company to come in and pump it out.
Look at this other theory. I know what the plumbing contractor is looking at, and you made the comment, this is today's blueprint. We don't care what you're doing next week with the building or next year with the building. You've got Renai water heaters in there.
Yeah.
That's contaminated water once it goes through the backflow preventer. The relief valve blows at 2 o'clock in the morning, or the expansion tank goes, or something lets go on the boiler. That's contaminated water going onto the floor.
Yeah.
Do you want the contaminated water going
What's the
from,
contaminant?
because it's in a heating coil, being heated. So the relief valve lets go, now it's spilling on the floor. What are you gonna do with that water? Maybe never happen, but I'm saying, your engineer looked at it as a plumbing job. This plumbing contractor was smart enough to pick a lot of that stuff up and say, just like everybody
Right.
else,
Change
here,
order.
here's my change order.
Yeah.
So where it goes next, if we continue to fight it and possibly say no, does the plumbing contractor go to our state board of examiners? And I want a field supervisor to come up from the state board of examiners.
Yeah, so
And
the
he
way-
says, shut it down.
The way I would see it going is, in the end, the building inspector needs to issue an occupancy permit for the building, because a building permit has been pulled. They may ask Ty and Bond, as the engineer of record, to comment on whether we feel it has been designed to building code. And
Right.
we would have to answer that according to what our building engineers say. So you would technically, potentially be in an issue where an occupancy permit, building permit wouldn't be issued. I don't know if they would go to the state board, but,
We're also dealing with this change order, they know it.
yeah.
And
So-
you're caught, you're kinda like caught.
If you, as our engineer, if we come to you and say the state came in and told us we have to reduce our I&I and we found a source being the water plant, what's your recommendation to take care of the I&I?
to do a building foundation project to take care of that problem. And again, that building is old, 110 years old. There's not really records for it. Whether if the wall was sealed, there'd be extra upward water pressure on the basement foundation floor,
Well, I
causing
looked
extra
at it.
cracking.
They did like an indoor perimeter drain around the building.
Yeah.
They created troughs around the entire perimeter indoors
But
for all the water to channel to that sump.
that lower level now is probably at the level of the lake, so infiltration.
Probably close.
Close, but not quite.
Pretty close, yeah.
Pretty close to the level of the high water mark of
The
the lake.
lowest part of the sump.
Yeah. And that sump is open to the ground, it's not sealed. Is it open to the ground or is it?
Yeah, it's open to the ground.
So that's
Open to the
water-
floor and then
Yeah,
goes out.
But
yeah.
that's water pressure working its way up.
And that could have been a
Hydraulically.
110-year-old design methodology, right?
Who knows that, yeah.
Yeah, just a pit to collect the water.
Right, so that there
pump
wasn't
it away.
upward pressure on the basement floor.
You know, Mr. Chairman, we're spending all kinds of money, and it's like, do we want this job complete? If we have to spend it, you're caught between a rock and a hard spot. Do you spend it and just get the job complete and get everybody the hell out of there? And get going?
It's also it's an annual expense that we're paying through a sewer bill to Webster.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you add into the,
Constant.
you
too.
just, yeah.
Steady, constant
Yeah.
sewer flow to Webster.
There's no way you can do without that sump pump well. Eye wash station, relief valve.
As your
Thing on the
engineer,
boiler.
I can't sit here and advise you not, to pump it out into the Zone 1
Right.
and have an engineer 30 years from now sit in my seat, tell you have another $15, $20 million treatment project. I just can't, you know.
Okay, we're gonna have to take this up, so, take care of this soon, one way or another, figure it out.
Well, I get the feeling that you're in pro going forward with it.
I feel
All
That's
right.
what we have
Hands are
usually-
semi-tied with it.
Gee, is there any other way
we
we
hired
can
the
do this?
engineering firm to design the building and try to like bring it's like, no different than someone.
It'll cost you $1
remodeling-
million to do the
Yeah,
building.
But, I mean, no different than someone remodeling a 3-decker, they pull a building permit, hey, wait a minute, you're gonna change those windows in the bedrooms, you're changing that hallway, doorway, we started off on a project, are we gonna sit for another year, or are we just gonna bite the bullet and say, we're gonna get, you know, like I say, we're spending left and right, but you're stuck, what's the right thing to do? They have a blueprint, the plumbing contractor figured it one way, figuring he could pick up on a few mistakes, let's say, and they know they're right. It is a commercial building, it's not a single-family residential building with PVC and plastic pipe.
But that's not the way you originally designed it.
We had designed it to go into the sewer, out the front of the building, and the plumbing contractor suggested that needed to be vented as a waste and not as a clear
Waste and
clear
vent
water.
system.
Yep. So now it needs to go to where the bathroom discharges, and there needs to be a roof vent.
Nothing on that existing plumbing in that building, that was,
Oh, I know the existing.
We just
Throw it
put a
in.
pipe down the sewer with an air gap and it's.
So I'm
that
just
was
saying
just.
that, I thought the
thrown
whole
in.
thing going into the sewer came up after the plumber determined this didn't meet code.
I mean, there's a couple of other minor parts of the process, but that's the bulk of the dollars.
But what was your original design was to just, it was still to pump
To
that sump
replace the sump
to-
pump with a line that connected to the sewer out the front of the building. That's what you've noticed that
Yeah,
that
that 2-inch
Dankers
line
has
that goes
already
around
dug.
Dankers, yeah.
2-inch. Now it has to meet the 4-inch minimum for waste out to the bathroom discharge location.
That end of the building is a whole nightmare. Right, George? You know it as well as I do. that was kinda like a do-it-yourself type deal 30, 40 years ago. And you've got a blueprint bringing a building up to some type of code.
Yeah, I mean, we're not, the goal of the project wasn't to bring everything up to code, but the things that we're touching, bringing up to code.
So what's the,
And the stuff is too close to the floor down there to just pour a new concrete floor, huh?
what do you mean?
Well, down there, I mean, the water table only comes in at a certain point. Can you just pour a 6-inch floor over everything in the basement?
Yeah, I have not explored with our structural engineers what they would do, but being an old building, we don't even know if it has a rebar in the floor.
Hey, found that out with the walls when you went to put your steps in.
Yeah,
I took pictures
a
last night.
retrofit like that is difficult in terms of a structural engineer has to stamp it as a design that they stand by. Putting a couple of inches of concrete, will that support the weight of the upward water pressure?
Water pressure pushing.
Yeah.
I'm just worried about that flow going in there. If we have a massive amount of rain and that whole area gets flooded out, like it's happened before.
Then you could have a source of getting rid of that water. Which,
Oh, pump it into the sewer and it'll pop up on Main Street out of
Main Street out of the main, we'll have an SSO problem.
If you want to examine whether, it can be piped to 100-something feet away, but that will come
Well, you
with
still
the
say
cost
it
too.
that doesn't meet code.
Just the groundwater, if you modified it so it's just groundwater.
It's all gonna be at a big expense. I mean, at this point, we're holding up Station 1, right?
Yeah, the plumber has other work to do, but for their efficiency purposes, they wanted this resolved before, so they can come back at one point in
Still
time.
got the VFDs we're waiting on too, so that's another thing, so it's not like.
what's it, 19,000?
32.
32?
28,
I was gonna say, it came down like
28,000.
And what are we spending at that building now?
Total
.2.
over $1
5
million.
5.225, total funding.
Yeah.
Were there contingency numbers for all this stuff?
Let me pass out the handout I was gonna hand out for the next item, and it has a page that helps you explain the contingency.
So the contingency is for the entire 5.2 million. And we're gonna be digging into, we're gonna have to dig into that on the Bates tank.
Page 2 is the one you should.
Yeah, but you got 1.2 in contingency, 1.19, and Bates Tank is 100-some thousand, so.
Yeah.
this-
So you have.
I don't think the dollar amount
No.
is the whole issue here. I think it's more of the moral issue of we spent a lot of money to mitigate I&I, and now we're turning around and offsetting it back to what we were. So how do we look, other than Bates Tank being 178 or whatever, for this next?
How do you look for costs?
Yeah,
So, page 2, you appropriated 5.225 million for the combined pump station number 1 project, the
Yep.
Mason Road water main, and the water storage tank project.
yep.
And with the engineering and police allowance, you have 1.19 million left in the contingency, or non-committed dollars.
And that's based on what the bids came in at.
Yes, so, year 14, 18 months ago, when we bid these 3 projects, very good owner's bidding market.
Right.
So you saved a lot of money off of the appropriation because it was a good bidding climate.
Is there any, I didn't go through the whole bid document, so is there anything in there for escalators based on material or any of that? Or did what they bid at is what they're stuck at regardless of if the cost of pipe because of supply issues doubles?
With the exception of contract 2, the water main, there's a law that went into effect in the state 7-8 years ago that required escalators for asphalt, diesel fuel,
Mason Road.
gasoline.
Right. Yeah,
So those
I
escalators.
know those,
are-
I'm just, with the issues that I've seen with pipe,
Yep.
do you know what they bid the pipe per foot at?
Not from
It's not
memory.
off the top of my head, so. Just cause I've seen it go from like $52 to $100 a foot.
Yep.
So the market's crazy right now, and I know contractors are all sitting out there with jobs they won, but they can't get pipe.
Yep.
So,
This is a sewer pipe, right? Plastic
No.
sewer pipe?
no, water main.
No, I'm talking about this, well, we're not
Oh,
doing,
that, yeah,
we're not
no,
talking
no.
about a water main project.
I'm just
All-
saying
all
that if-
materials prices are escalating right now.
Yeah, so I'm just worried that if there's something in there that gives them fluctuation based on market price for pipe, or is it strictly at what they bid?
Are you asking what they bid or this change order?
Not this change order, I'm saying on, say, the water main, Mason Road water main, well, that was already done. On the upcoming projects.
On the upcoming project, their contract price is their contract price. Will they be more diligent about trying to find something else? Perhaps.
Okay.
So,
But there's no escalator in the upcoming projects for pipe materials or other than
yeah, so
asphalt.
none of these actually include the water main anyway, right?
No, that's, I'd like to stay with this,
Yeah.
So Jeff,
stay on topic.
we appropriated $5 million, we've spent $4 million. What are the additional costs coming in to wrap all of this work up? Besides your 130 at the tank?
The plumbing change order for
Yeah.
contract 1, we'll need to wait until the paving happens on Mason Road to find out what the asphalt prices are at that point in time. There'll likely be an escalation off that. That'll be a increase of contract price. Those fluctuate monthly, and we look on the Mass DOT database to calculate that, and that was written into the contract.
So for our $5,225,000, there's a good chance all this work could be completed in the $4,750,000 range? Then you get your forgiveness?
Yeah, it will be under the 5.225.
Yeah, be under
but, you know,
5. And with forgiveness,
We're-
maybe we could hit 4 million
um,
on the total projects?
4 million, no, because I think you're basically at 4 million now without
Yes,
that.
oh, yeah, we're at 4 million now, yeah.
Yeah.
Took
I didn't include a summary.
Well, I said
Okay, yeah.
4.7.
All right, so-
4.7 maybe.
Try to stay on topic here so we can get through all this stuff.
I would say where we are with contingency is there's been a couple of additions, the PRV vault, and, you know, this Bates tank is a larger change order, but you're well placed to come in well under budget on the total package of
And
projects.
we still have standpipe, the Dresser.
We have Dresser
standpipe.
Hill to go. That's a more
That's
modern tank.
More modern,
Yeah.
there shouldn't be
Yeah.
issues up there, or shouldn't be.
The other kind of comment on Bates is it's 110 years old now. The hope is that with this rehabilitation, we're giving you another 25, 30 years. You kind of have to think, you know, at 140-year-old tank, will you be doing anything else on that tank, or, you know, you're kind of
Yeah,
buying?
my preference would be to start planning for a new replacement
Yeah.
tank
Yeah, that makes sense.
and get it out of the ground.
Yeah.
Okay, so, again, let's get back to Station 1, floor drain, sewer line. What are we gonna do with that?
I think our hands are kind of tied at this point, so.
Mr. Chairman, I'm just gonna make a motion, we go ahead with the change order so we can get this job progressing and wrap it up. Because we can do it within our budget. Don't we feel?
Definitely.
If we can do it within the budget, then
You just have to consider
we have to do
the
it.
future budgets of the department. Because we'll have to budget for the sewer,
Yeah,
added sewer expense.
yeah.
So just keep that in mind.
Okay, motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second. I know Scott's having a hard time with this one.
But we're, like I say, we're between a rock and a hard
Okay.
spot. We gotta finish.
I know morally you wanna make the stand, but
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? There we go. All right, next. According to this is the Bates tank change order.
Okay, so
Okay, Go ahead.
the Bates Road tank has been drained, cleaned, and it's been through most of its rehabilitation work. But in the cleaning process, it was discovered that some of the concrete was soft. We had a confined space entry where we had our structural engineer enter the tank with DN Tank's engineer. And they developed some recommendations to help extend the life of the tank, including repairing the floor and then coating the floor. And repairing the column, or coating the columns to, kind of freeze the point in time of any softness of the columns. The joint around where the walls meet the floor, which is under the base contract to seal, that was found to be potentially a source of leaking.
No doubt.
The other thing that was found to be a potential source of leaking is the overflow pipe, which has an inlet at the high point of the tank interior. Then it is a pipe that drops in its submerged water and then leaves the tank.
Where does that pipe go? Water goes under the floor, where does it, is there a pipe under the floor?
There's a pipe under the floor, and it goes to, I think we know the exit point. We don't know, there might be some other drainage systems going on around the perimeter of the tank, which we're still.
there's a series of perimeter drains that goes.
The overflow has
So
a
it goes
clear
into that.
exit point. The overflow pipe from the previous dive inspection was known to have a bad bracket on it, so that was part of the original contract. Having seen the pipe, drained and in person, it's severely corroded, and there might be at some point in the tank a way for water to get from the tank to the inside of the overflow pipe,
Sure.
creating lost water. So the repairs that were recommended both extend the life of the tank and potentially solve some lost water
Yeah, I think
leakage issues going on.
the
We
cost
knew this was
will,
gonna come up.
but we think I would say that we'll save that money in water not lost,
Right.
just based on that, what we're losing. But the overflow pipe, does that go out to open air?
George may want to chime in, but I think it goes out underground. Isn't it in the fenced
Yeah,
area?
it goes out underground and comes
There's
back up again.
I was gonna bring it up in our discussion, but I guess we're talking about it right now. Right now, I had them put maintain a sump at the level just above the pipe. When we went down there, we had the candy cane come out, okay, and the candy cane, the pipe is 8 feet down, of course, candy cane's up, so anything under pressure from the tank activates that candy cane of water.
Yep.
When we went down there the first time, we found the main for the tank, along with the 6-inch clay pipe that was connected to the candy cane, right next to the main at that level. We punctured it, and we got a gushing of water, like I explained last time, that you wouldn't believe. It lasted for quite a while, okay? Now, the reports I'm getting now that all the field is dry all around the tank, okay? So
Yeah,
they did
I-
a radar, we did the radar, they believe it comes around, it makes a connection point prior to where we are, more towards the tank. Some feel that the leakage, maybe leakage where the hydrant was put in for those 2 tanks and all that stuff. So Bobby Mason and I were talking, and I've made the decision to dig that whole area up again, expose everything, including further back where these so-called perimeter drains come in. If I catch them and get them in, we'll cut it, and we'll see where water's coming from. I'm getting water right now into this sump, and the tank is dry. I can only surmise right now that below this tank may have been a stone base or stone type of foundation that trapped water that was leaking, maybe from what the joints we're seeing. If that's the case, it may be a large area and we're still draining it out, but I don't understand why after all this time it's still causing a 2-inch pump to run constantly. If that pump shuts down, the whole hole that we had, which we stoned in, fills up and it bubbles up all over the place.
Well, you've super saturated the ground from years of leaking.
That's the thing, you know. So here's the
Perched
problem.
water table.
Here's the problem. If I raise the candy cane back up to its normal level, we're going to back up again into this perimeter drain, okay, and start getting the fields wet and all that. I'm concerned that there might be some breaks in this clay pipe somewhere around the tank, causing water and all that, okay. So the only option down there, if we can't figure out what's going on with this and find a way to get rid of this water, may involve putting in some kind of retention type, deep retention with trap rock, and put the candy cane down in there and let that bleed off any water from that point. Fence it in. I don't know what else we can really do with that, but we're trying all angles to figure out how this is worked, how it runs. So we do know that if we dig it all up and expose it, cut it, we can have the radar people come back in with their device and possibly trace this more accurately through, and or maybe with cameras or something, I don't know, take pictures and.
Well, we have a camera.
Yeah, we have, but like I said, it could be obstructions. They have specific equipment that really tracks down the area around. So it's kind of where we're at right now.
I had a conversation the other day with a resident on Alton Drive. You know him well. He said that the back part of his yard has dried up for the first time in 5 years. He says it's at least 5 years it's been wet. Sometimes wetter than others, but it's dry now.
What's hard to believe is a perimeter drain that doesn't terminate to the atmosphere at some point.
It's gotta go somewhere.
That's the whole idea.
It's gotta be going
Perimeter
somewhere.
drain.
It may tie into that overflow.
Is anyone still around from when that was earthed over? No.
Even Mr.
From
Calvin didn't have an
1910?
idea.
That's-
I don't think it was originally earthed
No,
over.
it was earthed over in the 50s. I
In the
got pictures
50s,
of it.
yeah.
In 1949, it was all the stone abutments.
Yeah, I don't know that.
Kenny likes to think he knows, but he's
But in the
throwing
50s, it
guesses
was
out
earthed
there
over.
too.
It's in a town report, when they did that, earth it
Yeah.
over. To keep it cool in the summer and warmer in the winter.
Beautiful work.
Okay, so this change order.
So
I
page one
sent
is
you a
this.
long list of
Yep.
questions, and thank you for
Yep.
getting those back, and I think they went out to everybody, so you saw them.
So
Any
the-
other questions?
Should we have the supports tested first? Because I know it said in there that that price doesn't include if it's beyond a certain amount of damage.
The structural engineer didn't feel like there was any, so I guess let me first say, the structural engineer that went down there said tank is in very good shape for its age. So these are more cosmetic style issues. Obviously, if they're causing a leak, that's a problem. But there was no structural integrity questions that were brought up. Testing the thickness of the columns, that was not brought up. We can bring that back to the engineer to figure that out.
Well, I thought that was brought up in the original that you sent out, all the bullet points and the columns.
I don't think that was relative to the columns.
That if the concrete was more than an inch in depth, the
I thought
damage
it
to
was the
the
columns.
concrete
Yeah.
was more than an inch, then that wasn't part of the contract.
Yes, yeah. I think the floor had
Obviously, yeah.
divots, I'll say, of 1 inch to 3 inch
And that's,
depth.
so this change order is addressing all of them.
Yes, yeah, it repairs the floor. I don't remember talking about that relative to the columns.
Yeah, I thought it was on the columns. I'll look at it.
Samantha's
Once
coating,
that floor gets poured, does it also get sprayed?
that's what they're,
The water
It gets
filtered?
repaired, and then it gets coated.
You know, the rubber, like the man made a comment, it's like a.
Yeah, and the
Texture of
The
it.
coating has, I may not be describing it correctly, but some crystalline material in it that penetrates into the concrete and actually hardens interior of below the surface elevation of the concrete. So it's like helping the concrete's lifespan as well.
okay. And you made recommendations based on their change order was for 195,832.
So let me
And
clarify
you-
first, this
Yep.
is what we're presenting to you as the change order. The first 4 items are relative to other items, including the radar
Oh, okay,
solutions
yeah.
work,
Yep.
the deep excavation work, about $2,000 for the emergency water main repair that was performed by M&M. Deanne will be able to cover that if this change order passes. And then some extra equipment rental time from Deanne.
Yep,
Those are the first 4 items. Then the remainder is the new findings. Our review and recommendation recommends the floor restoration and the floor coating. Not necessarily not to do the wall. We didn't see a benefit to that because it was structurally sound. Coating the columns, the new overflow pipe, which was a cost of about $25,000, but you get a credit for the bracket that they don't need to do anymore, so it nets out to about $17,600. And the interior ladder that they mentioned, that's a personal, your
I
choice.
just asked the question that says, we're putting a ladder into a tank that's gonna be full of water all the time, who's gonna use it?
It would benefit if you need to do a
If you
future
have to go in,
rehabilitation.
if you have to go in, then, yeah, that's,
There's no other way in the tank.
there's no other way in.
Right,
other than to
but
drop
if you
somebody
drain the
down with a-
tank, if you drain the tank again for rehabilitation and you have hydrodynamic tanks sitting there again, it would benefit that situation. But at a 140-year-old tank, will you be doing that again?
Here's
I
the
don't think
comment.
so.
Yeah, I'm beginning to think maybe we made a mistake rehabbing this.
Well, you didn't really have the time to.
Yeah,
Let's
no.
go through building. and-
We'll have to do go through the,
So on the original letter, it was actually to you from DM Tanks. So it says the price does not include temporary shoring of the tank roof if the column's deterioration is found to be greater than 1 inch in depth. So should we determine the deterioration so we don't end up with multiple change orders, or have them tell us that the column's no good, we already agreed to a change order for $100,000 and then turn around and say it's gonna be another $300,000 or $400,000 to replace columns and
I don't think that is something that they'll be able to determine unless they start doing the work. That's the unfortunate part of some of these change orders is you want to grasp it all up front, but like you say, as soon as you start to unravel, things start to unravel more.
yeah.
Because if they knew, they would have put it in there.
They don't have can't they use
Gauge.
the device to just test the,
Like an ultrasound or something like that, that's looking to the concrete?
So the columns are 25 feet tall, so they have to produce, the reason that price is actually pretty high relative to what you might think is they have to manually prepare shoring around each column and get it up. So like, if you want to do another change order for $25,000 for them to examine whether there's 1 inch, we can do that. But I think that's the shoring around each column is significant.
okay, so, any other questions?
Nope.
Okay, what's the,
one other comment.
Sure.
A material was found on the walls, a reddish brown. We're recommending that we have Deanne test that to see if it's hazardous. I guess you could take the risk and not test it and just fill the tank back up again. But, you know, it's emptied now. You don't want to empty it again, so it's an opportunity to test it to see if it's hazardous.
Yeah, back in the fifties, before they filled it with dirt, they said, oh, let's put this nice non-stick coating on the inside.
Yeah, there's a little bit of it left, yeah. So, okay, where is that, testing of, is that the testing of wall
Yeah,
material?
I don't think, you know, the testing is gonna be, you know, $500, $800. If it's found to be hazardous, then removal would be a significant cost, but.
Yeah,
Can you encapsulate it with a coating if you coat the walls?
I don't know
You don't know
about
what it is.
tanks relative to.
How big of an area?
NF61, but, how what?
How big of an area?
It probably, the whole wall was probably coated at one point. It's not necessarily, it's particularly around the base of the wall.
That was just like being
it's probably
iron
sealed at
manganese
one time,
sediment.
and it's
Yeah.
probably leftover sealant, but that was used 40 years ago.
I mean, it could open a can of worms, but to put it back without testing, you're the commissioners of the water
Yeah,
system.
if
to
it,
want
if it
to do
opens a
that.
can of worms, then it was something that we didn't want in there in the first place.
Right. So, yeah,
I think you're better off testing it.
no,
Gotta
absolutely,
test.
it needs to be tested. We wouldn't be responsible to say, yeah, just forget about it, so. All right, so again, the change order,
Did anyone have a preference on the interior ladder? George, do you have a
No.
preference?
No, I don't even want it there in case somebody has an inclination, they wanna go down into the water or something, or do something stupid. If we ever need one, it's gonna be done with with the DN tank people or whoever, and they'll have their own equipment to bring in, so I don't see the benefit of it. We don't ever go down.
Like I
into
said,
the
I'd prefer
hole
to start
for any
planning to
reason.
replace the tank, so.
yeah. I think that's probably the case. And we're gonna be looking at replacing it at some point. Who knows, Dudley, someday might have a big golf ball.
Surprised in finding golf balls.
So what's again, what's the, somebody care to make a motion? Or what do we wanna do with this?
All right, so,
To me, I,
so
I
what do we
like-
have for a total? Less the ladder
130,
Plus-
232.
and plus the testing the wall.
So it's the 130,000 plus maybe allow for an allowance of up to $1,000 for testing.
That's okay. Does that sound, that probably sounds like a good idea. So it'll be 131, up to 131, 232.
So moved.
Okay. Motion's been made, is there a second?
Second.
Second. Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 3-0 vote.
We will need to do some additional paperwork with the SRF to increase that to that value.
Do that, and of course, obviously you have them move forward with the
Yep.
testing. Okay, main brakes and bait tank.
You skipped 11.
Did you have any,
Oh, the bait tank.
comments on the marijuana grow facility that was presented prior?
Nothing specific. You know, I noticed that you had a peer review item further on your agenda. If you want us to be involved in that, we can do that peer review.
Oh, yeah, that was something that I had brought up, that
Okay.
on these projects, that we
Yeah.
need to have the planning and whatever boards create a 53G account.
Yep.
So we
This is
have,
from Lisa. Okay.
Yep. Similarly, if you created that 53G account, we could do an evaluation on any water main improvements in that vicinity that might be
So
beneficial.
that would probably be one of the things that I would recommend before we move forward on the grow facility stuff is,
A peer review.
well, yeah, I mean, we're calling it peer review here, but we would want our engineers to review it. That's why I was asking for the data for the fire flows and all that, so, you know, the right thing to do would be to have the engineers take a look at it. We have the
Okay.
hydraulic model
So
done.
we'll take 14 out of order then. Set up the revolving account for engineering peer reviews. Revolving accounts have to be set up at town meeting, I believe. So
Yes,
we can't do anything until November. And then we have to figure out where's that money gonna come from.
No, it's not a revolving account that we pay for. It's a 53G account that would be, it's typically set up through a planning board, or the town engineer or whatever sets up. So it's anytime a proponent comes in for a project like they just did earlier today, we would say, all right, you need to put, you know, to start off with, we need $5,000 or $10,000 to have our engineers review your plan,
Okay,
determine your needs, determine if our infrastructure can handle it. So they'll do a quick review on it and say, all right, your water needs are this, your sewer needs are this, your fire flows are this. Will the existing infrastructure handle it? Or do we need to do upgrades to X, Y, and Z pipe? You know, George went through a bunch of them. But, I mean, George went through them just looking at it quickly. But
Yeah.
you need to understand at a different level of the hydraulics and the dynamics of how the water's gonna flow and whether you're gonna create water hammers or.
right. It makes sense. Well, we need to set that all up in a,
No, so we don't set up that account. It would be something that the planning board would set up, and they dictate how much money goes into it. And, I mean, I'm sure the town does this on a regular basis.
they have,
they have one.
Right, so you would
they
just
have an
need,
engineer.
we would just need to tell them that we want that added to the peer review process, that we want our water and sewer engineers to review plans if they're above or beyond, you know, if it's a single-family residence, we don't need to do a peer review and have them design a water system
Right,
to tie a house in, but something at this magnitude, you know, we need to see what that effect's gonna be on the entire system. So it's nothing that
Okay.
we would go to town meeting for or set up a special account. It's a standard 53G account that's set up to do this type of work.
all right, so we'll have to get with, planning board then?
I believe it's typically through the planning board, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they
I've
have,
never been part of an initiation process, but usually it's the planning board that.
planning board, they have, I know they have peer review,
Right, so they have to have
I know
a
that.
53G account set up already.
okay?
And we would just need to add that to their list and say that the peer reviews are also gonna be done.
So we need to know how much it's gonna cost.
So what would you think a typical engineering review would cost on something like what was presented
So
earlier?
it depends on the scale of the project, but 5,000 is a typical dollar value that's set
That's what I
aside.
thought, so. But it's something that they put $5,000 in, we start billing to it, they'll start looking at it and they say, all right, we're up to $4,000, you might wanna tell them they need to contribute more to replenish the 53G account.
The theory is essentially we're doing some work on behalf of the developer, but if they don't like our answer, they're not gonna pay the bill, right? So you're kind of a liaison to make sure that the work gets done and paid for.
Okay,
So, and just because we say it's a $5,000 account, doesn't mean our engineering costs to review it all aren't gonna be 30,000.
Gets replenished.
But it's just $5,000 at a time, and we tell them, hey, we found this, this, and this that need to be reviewed further. You need to add another 5,000, and we'll work through that, and we'll let you know when it runs out. And if it only takes $3,000 to review, then at the end, when everything's done, they get the other 2,000 back.
okay,
It's just a funding source that the engineers are working for us, but it's at their expense.
all right, so we have to build this into our process then.
We can't really build it into our process. We need to tell the engineer, the planning board that it needs to be added to their process And we will determine that, you know,
Okay.
whatever the level of project is that
Okay.
we think our engineers need to take a look at it and make a determination as to
Okay,
what may need to
so-
be upgraded.
Okay. Okay, do we want to see if we can get on the agenda for the next planning board meeting to try to have them start this process? Or is that something we can do just by talking to the town planner?
I don't think you'll make it for their next meeting, cause I believe it's next Wednesday, and they already have,
So who oversees kind of the, I mean, I know the planning board does their own, but who is kind of the town's liaison for?
Bill Scanlon,
yeah, the town planner.
town planner.
Okay, so I would think that George could probably go
Yep.
talk to him, have a conversation, determine if we
Absolutely.
need to go and discuss it, or he could just
Okay.
simply go in and Bill says, oh, okay, yeah, we'll add add that to the list.
Okay, so that's okay. Do we need to put that in the form of a motion to get that going? To
I don't think
start
so. I
doing
think George
peer-
can just
engineering
go-
peer review?
I can just go see Bill with
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
good.
let's go have the conversation with him.
Yep.
I would say we'll discuss it at the next meeting. If we need to do anything further, we can do it at that time, but it should be a simple thing. George has a conversation with him.
Okay,
You know, if it's never been brought to their attention, then they're not
Right.
gonna do anything. so-
I kinda wondered why we weren't doing that, but, okay, good,
Can I make a couple of other
sure.
comments? The sewer asset management plan applications are out now.
Right,
So we're anticipating that you'll want to move forward with that. They're due August 12th or so, 12th or 13th. No cost for applying for it, but you'll find out in roughly January if you made the list.
okay,
So we need to go to fall town meeting to,
No, spring.
Springtime meeting?
Yeah.
yeah, after we're awarded,
It'll essentially be started this time next year, if you're awarded.
okay,
how are we doing with the water one?
The water one, so we had the hydraulic meeting a couple weeks ago. The report's being prepared. Our goal is to get you a draft by about Labor Day and wrap it up by like November, which includes a presentation, public meeting presentation, so I assume at your board meeting.
And how are we doing with the in-kind services?
That, I believe that's lagging a little bit because staff is so busy on other things. But the goal would be to get the town staff to GPS locate valves and hydrants by, October.
Can we say we've had them dig up a bunch of water mains over the past few weeks to figure out what we did?
We can try to be creative there. I mean, a lot of things that you actually are doing project-wise can be considered asset management improvements as well. So we can do some calculations there for hours spent.
okay,
The PFAS treatment plant is awarded, and we're having 2 pre-construction meetings next Wednesday
next Wednesday.
with the
yeah.
2 contractors. The treatment plant contractors are raring to get going. I think he's even been on site, George, to lay out some stuff.
Derek,
no-
Derek called me today, we had a conversation, so I
Okay.
said, everything's on track right now,
Yep.
we're gonna take one step at a time as we
Yep.
go, and it seemed like Winston's done good
Yep.
for us before.
All the contracts were signed by June 30th, which is the key date. The state will have to compile how many applicants met that deadline.
Right,
It's for your principal forgiveness calculation,
yeah,
but
I let folks in to the building to
Okay.
get the signatures done.
I'm, appreciate that. Sorry about the delay. The contractor was having trouble with their insurance agent. Took an extra 3 or 4 days. The good news is, we believe that you'll be eligible for $3 million plus of principal forgiveness on that. So, final numbers to be determined, but that's the way it would look like, plus.
Keep listening.
Yeah.
And the last thing is I also submitted a proposal for the Potash Brook culvert replacement for your review. Don't have to act on it tonight, but might want to have some joint meetings with highway planning, town administrator about that whole Potash Brook corridor.
I know you mentioned something about that they're looking for grants.
That's what we heard, but
Yeah,
We've heard nothing.
I participated in a meeting, there was a grant.
yeah,
They were trying to move the one down the Hill Street project onto those
Yeah.
grants. Didn't apply, then I told him about our project,
Yeah.
and his eyes opened right up, he said, ooh, and that qualifies.
Yeah.
Because there's a water facility on the.
so there's a thing it's called hazard mitigation grant due in October. That one, that application's a little bit more extensive. We probably wouldn't be able to do that for free, but I think the water department, the highway department, planning board, or planning planner, town administrator should talk and make sure they're on the same page relative to improving those 3 culverts.
Absolutely. I was looking at that.
That was
The
discussed.
kind of trucks that are gonna go over what's there now to get in to build that station. Will that plastic pipe bear that weight?
Yes.
It will,
We
okay.
Yeah.
Just,
And what's a concrete truck weigh with 10 yards of concrete on it, when you think about it?
Yeah, no, we've had fully loaded tractor trailers go through
Yeah,
there.
your tank truck.
Yeah, tank
okay.
trucks, yeah, so.
I stopped down there the other day and I looked at it and, okay, well, will it bear that weight? Because there's not a whole lot above it,
Yeah.
so
We're actually supposed to reinforce that again, we just hadn't had a chance.
that other pipe should probably be replaced as well.
Yeah, we could do that.
At least for now. I mean,
Yeah.
it's short money. That's something you guys can do.
Yeah.
Just to make sure that's, once we start, we don't want, the last thing we want is to have a big construction truck sitting there buried,
Sideways.
sunk in the brook.
You could do an ornament.
Yeah, so, okay,
That's what I had.
good, okay. Yeah, good. I'm glad you pushed forward and got all that other stuff because it's updates on all of everything that's going on. Good, okay.
Okay, thank you.
I don't, okay. Okay, Bates Tank D. We have a packet in our envelope with information and a very old
1910,
excerpt from
Registry of Deeds. 1 acre
the
conveyed to the
registry.
town. With a right of
A
way.
whole lot, yeah, a whole lot of information there. So we need to, I mean, I wouldn't imagine that's gonna be super expensive, and can we get that done within the budget?
Yeah, I wouldn't say why not.
I mean, while we're up there and doing all of this, at least to me, it seems like a good idea. It says assess one is from assess one. There's just so much in
It
there.
should be in there, I apologize.
Now, what would you wanna, Scott, why do you wanna change the deed if it's being conveyed to the town of Dudley?
It's, the thing is
No.
what, it's not marked out on the,
We don't know how much land actually.
Well, yeah, well, okay, in other words,
it
yeah,
has to be
1 acre.
surveyed.
It has to be surveyed
Yeah,
to
the stone wall.
determine,
Stone walls
this
that
is
aren't there.
what we are,
Stone walls that aren't there anymore.
They don't have a recorded survey.
this is what we own.
You
And
want-
that way, we know, the abutting property owners know.
No, yeah.
This is property of the town of Dudley. So that, we can kind of allay some of the, they're not really issues, but
Because all of our other properties actually owned by the town of Dudley, correct? Like your
well,
pump stations and
this
everything?
will be too.
Yeah.
Everything's owned by the town of Dudley,
Town of Dudley.
but it needs to be surveyed to actually,
Show me the corners.
this is what we actually own. And that can be marked, and then we can let the abutters know that, okay, we've gone through the expense, this is,
Yeah, because just so you know, all your budding property is under the Agricultural Preservation Act
sure.
through the state of Massachusetts.
So, but we wanna, I mean, do we need to make a motion to do this, or?
Because you have to have it surveyed, Because technically, right now, it's still listed under a different party owning it. Even though the deed says the town of Dudley owns it, there is no recorded survey, so it has to be recorded so it can change ownership to the town of Dudley.
That's the same kind of thing that happened with the common a couple of years ago.
Did the town accept it? The town?
I don't know, I wasn't around then.
Couldn't make that meeting, huh?
Yeah.
Still sucking on a bottle.
Moses Goodnow, Justice of the Peace. Everett Bates, Jenny Bates, Henry Green, the people that are, okay, so we need to have this all codified so that we know.
And she gave us a list of surveyors
Yep,
on the back page.
but I mean, it doesn't matter who we use. Put the word out, and there's one in Dudley.
The
there's one in
surveyors,
Oxford.
is a list from the planning board.
Oh,
That's who they
okay.
recommend they give for surveyors.
Yep. I mean, to me, if we've got one that's in town,
Yeah.
if we can give him the business and he wants it,
Give me the ring.
you know, but, yeah, just work that list and, I mean, do we need to make a motion to go forward with doing this?
No, it's just a standardized survey.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't make much, you know,
All he's gonna do is put his pins in the ground.
yep. I can't imagine it's that super expensive. If it is, then, you know, we've got fall town meeting to bolster the budget. We have to.
Does it say how much land it was?
1 acre.
1 acre.
I'm saying the hump is less than an acre. It doesn't look like that's an acre there, so there is some land around it. We can get it all
Yeah, I
codified.
agree, just should have it surveyed so George knows exactly where he can play around.
What he has to mow, or what he has to get his guys to mow.
Yeah.
Hey, mentioning mowing, how about the weeds growing up on the, around
I
the
told,
fence?
actually, we're talking about that today. We're gonna spray some chemical on that,
Yeah,
try
because
to.
if you don't want them, like we said, getting down into the roof, you gotta take care of that.
Okay, move on then to main brakes and Bates tank.
Bates Tank, you've already heard about anyway. That was my presentation about where that water's coming from, but we're gonna open it up and see what we got over there. That's the best thing. And main breaks, there's been 8 breaks in all, which including mostly on this one street. And I put that in my report. I mean, there were excessive damage there. The roads were really lifted up bad. We paved a large amount of area of all these breaks. And unfortunately, during the summer months, they were going for a while till I got the phone call.
Right.
And I responded to myself twice to shut them down. And manpower was very limited, so it took us a long time. Plus the amount of size of the rocks that come out of those holes. Ramco came in with his loader to pick them up from us, to take them home. That's how big those rocks were,
Oh, I
on
saw
top of the
'em.
water main.
I saw him. I came down.
We're doing this balancing act over the phones on the SCADA, trying to regulate the the booster station so that it keeps going. We're actually flushing the system a bit by opening hydrants up by the tank to allow room so we can move water when we need to maintain pressure for those houses that need it, like on Bates, like on Ash, like on Airport. It's an extreme amount of balancing act, and and a lot of times, sometimes it doesn't quite always go as planned. But right now, up to this point, I'm not going to jinx myself, but nothing's happened at this point. So we've had time to redo things, get new materials back into the shop. And as I said in my report, also I've had to go out to Rhode Island to get C900 pipe just to replace the pipe I have, which I already stockpiled for main breaks, and we went through all that. These pieces we're replacing were 14 feet or 10 feet, and then there was another one further on, and we got like 4 IMAXs going on. It's just been incredible to where we've come up with these things. So that's the game plan for the tank. We're trying to do as much exploration as we can to make a final decision on this perimeter drain problem. But in the end, if it doesn't get nailed down firmly as to where the water is coming from, why it's so much, I can't see why now, after all these weeks, with the rain being just sporadic.
Yeah, we haven't had a lot of rain.
That a 2-inch pump is full, constantly pumping 24/7 to maintain dryness in the area. Once that shuts down, immediately the hole starts filling up where we had dug with the hydrants and all that stuff. So we're gonna try to see if we can dig all that up, explore everything. There was another pipe that we found too that came across but didn't go anywhere. Maybe we can go further and see where these come together. And open it up, see what we got, go from there.
Okay.
Make a decision later. So that's it on the main breaks in the tank. Oh, also, I just want to thank my guys, of course, for all the, I mean, everybody has been spent right now on these breaks. It's taken that long, and the sewer department has been there every step of the way through all these breaks and all these paving jobs and all these, even removing the material out of our yard so we could at least get equipment back in the garage. It's been so much coming out of these holes to help us get back on track.
Yep.
I want to thank them and our guys too for all they do.
Okay. Cordis Road.
Northeast Geoscience sent a statement here. I have only glanced at it myself because I didn't get it till just a little while ago. But I did talk to Jay Billings the other day. He was quite pleased with the recovery rate that he found there. Now these were tested back, I like to say 15 years ago. I'm not exact on where it was. I know it was a long time ago. Where they went from there, I don't understand. There was questions about quality, not so much about the type amount of water in there. So this gentleman came and approached us about it, and he's very willing to have us purchase the parcels of land we need to put a pump station there for certain reasons. But I says, first off, we have there were two possibilities out in that West Dudley area. One is still being looked at. The other one was, this one here came to be as being a very possible situation that we could utilize. So I sent the guys out recently. Last week they were out there, and from what I hear, it looked very good for return rate and availability for water. They could even narrow it down to a better vein as it comes in, but Quinnebog runs very close there, and he's got a natural spring in there too. So the quality, the sampling was done too to see what kind of contaminants might be in there. We didn't get anything back that I could see from that last time, so I thought we'd do a complete job on it before we start jumping the gun. See what we have over there, and see what the quality comes back at, and then we can go further on.
Okay, the second property that's listed there, we looked at that a number of years ago.
Yeah.
And it's not a good source.
Yeah,
Not a good
there was,
site.
yeah.
Radon.
Yeah,
Very high
that was
radon
the M
potential.
property, but that of course had the better availability.
Yes.
But there's one more too that we're looking into. But
Okay.
like I said,
All right.
Is it just radon?
Radon and the potential, there were other issues.
other issues.
Other issues there, I don't wanna say them,
Yeah.
say them on public, you know.
I was involved in that way back.
But I remember looking at that a number of years ago,
Yeah.
and some folks came in to talk to us about it. But, okay, good. Is there a reason why there's,
That was just information for you, and apparently I stapled it to that, so I
oh,
apologize.
so this is,
Sorry.
I saw that, I was like,
I
I
got
am not.
stapled.
why is that all together? And then,
It's just so that you know that was done and that's all going forward, and the last thing is not yours, it's mine.
well, the thing is?
Yeah, I took care of that, but I just apparently had a happy staple day.
Not only kill trees, you
Killing
used
staples.
a lot of iron,
Yep.
yeah. Okay, okay, good,
Yeah,
so,
we're in a
yeah,
lot of
keep
coal
checking on the
connected,
court, yeah,
yeah.
we'll keep looking at that, and, that's gonna be an ongoing process.
Pollution.
Yeah.
The revolving account, we've already talked about. Indirects, we haven't heard anything.
that we're kinda waiting on you guys when you're available to go see town treasurer. He's ready to receive you. Just needs to know what days work.
Do you wanna change the way you wanna present
No,
that?
I
He's ready to receive us?
visit with
Should
you.
we bow as we walk in the door?
We'll have a suite, you will be the leader of the suite,
Leaders.
and you'll introduce everyone. My marshal,
Okay.
my sergeant at arms.
Okay. All right, so we need to set something up.
That's right.
Um,
And I know
oh,
everybody.
that's the end of
Holidays
August,
and all
that's
that
too
stuff.
far, that's too far away.
Yeah, so I couldn't tell you what day of that time right now.
Yeah, that's,
No, I just, I know there's a day I have a couple of meetings, but yeah, we can do something, to me, yeah, actually during the day, on any one of the next 4 or 5 Thursdays would be perfect. I'll go fishing in the morning, then come here, take a day off from work. But yeah, okay, so we can set something up offline for that. Superintendent's report, we received a copy of it.
we can find the damn.
It's all pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I'll let you know in a minute as soon as I find it.
It was the very last page in the.
I don't know, I got it all screwed up here. A couple things that I wanted to mention.
You want mine?
Yeah, would you please, just for a
Yeah,
quick.
absolutely.
The dump truck went out for repair.
Right. Oh, yeah, I did see that.
It explained to me by Roy up there that those parts are not made for that truck anymore. The truck was a 2003. It's almost 20 years old. It's going to need tires soon. It's going to need some work soon. It's going to need springs soon. We've used it to the hilt. We've loaded it to the hilt. I expected to try to get a little more, couple years out of it, but with that issue, if we end up with a problem and we can't get it fixed, then I've got a nothing for a truck, and I have to go out and get one as soon as possible, which may not be that easy with the way markets are and vehicles are. So I think I'm gonna start my due diligence and start looking at some trucks and see what they are. I'd like to try to get a a little bigger truck than the one we have there, so we
I
get
was
more.
gonna say, you said smaller, I was gonna
No,
say,
no.
you might wanna.
There was a nice one right in front of our yard, matter of fact, that the little on a Kenworth, and he had it's an 8-wheel, but it's smaller, bed size, but bigger. We could take double the load than ours, because when we're out West Dudley, and I have to run back with the machine all the time, or way to fill somebody up, and it wastes a lot of time. So we're gonna start looking at that avenue
We don't
anyway.
have water in West Dudley.
Yeah,
Yeah, we do. Bill Road,
at the park.
Well, Mill Road, okay, yeah.
Dresser Hill Road, Mill Road, okay. You just so we get on top of that. The brakes are all there pretty much, so you know about that.
Keep spending money.
Yeah, spending lots of money there. People, the actual rave system is working better on a texting and emailing provision than actual phone calls. That was presented to me by Paul. He suggested trying that. And we did that in the last one when it was late at night, and it worked pretty well. The people didn't get bothered by a phone call, but they got the information when they got up and looked at their phone in the morning. So I think we're gonna do that for the most part, except for during the day.
After hours,
Yeah.
absolutely. A couple people said something about
Yeah.
phones ringing in the middle of the night, ringing. Yeah, we can send it out as a text, and then if need be, it can be followed up with a phone call at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Also, I want you, number 3,
Go ahead. Jen,
24-hour pump test.
George?
I just wanted to add that Paul and I are working on that water sewer only database,
Oh,
so that not,
So
that
we're
I don't
not-
get notified.
We're not calling Cordis Road about
Right.
a
We're-
water main break, because
We
they
are,
don't care.
we are working on that, but it's not as easy as it sounds, unfortunately, but we are.
yeah. I thought that worked pretty well, and
Yep.
you know, but, so, yeah, that would be great.
Okay, number 3?
Number 3, that's the latest that came in for the 24-hour pump test at Station 1. So I'll be calling DEP, my good friend Mr.
Latest as of
Boswick.
when?
That
When did
just
these
came,
come in?
that just came in last week, the results for
Okay.
that. So unfortunately, Bob's on vacation this week, and he'll be back Monday,
Oh,
so I'll call him Monday. I'd like to get usage of, once that's all approved and everything is done, I'd like to get at least sporadic use of that if I have to.
Mhm.
And I don't see why not.
No, not sporadic, use it.
So, yeah,
Use it,
Well-
flow it, and, can slow things down this end.
Yeah, well, that, I mean, you know, yeah, I wanna just tell him that we use it when
Yeah.
we need it, how, you know.
We need it every day.
Yeah. So I was pleased about that at least they, you know, the numbers are where I think we can be okay. Of course, he'll probably make us monitor it constantly anyway, monthly, so, but that's fine, we're still
Okay.
doing our normals anyway.
Theoretically, you should just have to follow your sampling schedule with it. So
Yeah.
You test it once a month, if your average is
Yeah,
above 10, you just.
But that makes more sense. 8, 12, 10 averages
that's
to
why
12.
I did it again, because it did
How
not make
does 10,
sense the
10,
last time.
10 average to 20?
Yeah,
You can't even use,
no.
you know, Common Core math to make that make that make sense.
And they should because of the irregularities of the testing sometimes, you know,
Yeah.
that's, a lot of people having that issue, not just us.
Did you-
The other thing is, we just purchased a new ring saw, fresh out of the market. It does not have a center arbor on it, so it can cut pipe right straight through with a 14-inch. We use a 16 right now to do it. It's a lot safer, a lot more efficient, and the other one's is a lot older, so
Mhm.
we're kind of upgrading there. So we're getting the best of our equipment needed to do what we have to do.
All right,
On the sewer side, we're well on track with SSO. We completed the first stage of the project there for the informational part of it. All that's being done and working with Ty and Bond and getting through all that. So that's ongoing. That will be ongoing.
how are you doing with hydrant flushing and jetting?
Nothing. The only flushing we're doing is when we're opening up hydrants in certain locations on the upper zone because of the relief. Nothing's being happening down below till we get that tank back on.
Makes sense. All right,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah, so, and I wish, believe me, I've got gates to do, I've got tanks to do, but I've also got, you know, these things all happening. We had meter readings starting, so, you know, and we're having a little issue with the Vadar, so Jen's been working strenuously trying to get that corrected, and she's hitting roadblocks after roadblocks.
We're getting there, slowly but surely.
Yeah, so unless you have any other questions, that's,
Okay. Public comments? Board comments?
So did we get the SSO plan submitted? It's due today?
yeah.
And
It was
did we-
approved last week, we had a meeting, and everything looked good, we reviewed it, and it's sent off.
and the ERP, the updated emergency
Yeah.
response one, that was done too.
Yeah.
And did, what else do we have Ty and Bond working on?
We're starting,
SSO.
SSO, going into the, yeah, we're still working on that, and the other, they're still ongoing with that, but there was something, no,
The O&M for the
yes, operational
collection
manuals,
system?
yes,
They did
that's
that
working
too.
on, Mike actually compiled some information that we're putting together on that, that's coming due too, so.
How
we're
about,
gonna do-
how about your pipeline contractor? Does he give you an idea that material's available?
I haven't seen him yet. I only probably,
I know we signed the contracts last week.
yeah. I'm
Well,
gonna,
you're gonna have your pre-construction meetings next week.
well,
so-
that's with, yeah, but.
Both of them.
G and-
Yep.
I won't mention the company's name, but
Oh,
they're gonna have,
information.
we're gonna be watchful. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna be requesting a certain engineer to come in on the inspector to watch them on the project there, because, I like the way he did things with the last round, and, I think they need a lot of attention on this one. So, we're gonna be very watchful in this project for the next main project.
Okay, Jay? I will say, I've stopped at most of those main breaks. And I've seen the guys at work, and, I mean, you called them out already for doing great work. Yeah, they're doing the best, they're doing a good job and the best they can do for, under the situations.
Just keep in mind,
Well, thank you.
keep in mind through the chair, everybody, and, just, the problem is not, the problem at night is that I can't get somebody in here quick enough to shut mains down. I have to do it myself. basically, until I can get some help to come in. Timmy comes in usually as fast as he can. James come in from Webster as fast as he can, but the guys on call are not, if they're on call, they're 25 minutes away to 30 to 40 minutes away. Brian's on the other side of Worcester, so it takes him a long time, and Luke's all the way on the Pomfret line to come in too. They do quick, but if we can't shut a main down in 20-some minutes, you get a lot of damage going on. And unfortunately, some of these really caused some road problems because they were going for a while before I even got the call.
Well, I will say I know you commented about road damage. Patterson Ave, I took a picture of the thickness of the asphalt down
Yes,
there.
yes.
That asphalt is only, if it's an inch
It's
thick,
not even
that,
an inch
I
thick,
don't,
is-
I think I think I'm being generous by saying it's an inch thick. There's no asphalt down there, so
I think we did Elizabeth Street a major favor.
you,
but-
yeah.
And Perryville.
Paving job.
You know, it is what it is.
I
It's
can't.
not
bel-
anybody's fault, but
No,
some of these roads are not in great shape.
I just can't believe a contractor throwing giant boulders back into a hole after
Oh, yeah.
laying a main is absolutely ridiculous and
I mean,
disgusting.
Some of the rocks, I don't know if you saw them, but some of the rocks that he pulled out of that hole would fill this space in between the table.
When they did that,
Right up to the top of it, they were enormous.
when they did that
Hold
work
the
years
pipe down.
ago, whatever they dug out, a payloader went right behind them once the pipe was, and just pushed it all right back in. There's no idea of bedding with sand or bringing in clean
Okay.
material. It's just,
All right, so we've,
Did you guys order any of the eye hydrants?
Yes, I had a couple hydrants on back order, 6.5 foot hydrants that I wanted to.
I mean, the eye hydrant though, not,
No.
you didn't order any of those?
No.
Just because that could, if you get a couple of those strategically placed in your different pressure zones, you
Yeah.
could probably find a water main break before anyone calls. you.
Brian was nagging me about it, and I said, wait, we're one step at a time. I'll get to it, I'll get them all. I don't know how much back order those are gonna be too, I'm sure they're,
I don't know, 'cause I mean, it's just a kit that you can put on an existing hydrant.
yeah,
You have Clow hydrants, right?
Yeah.
So they just pull the guts out and drop new guts in.
yeah, we'll look at it, I'll even talk to Winwater, to see if they
okay.
got that.
But who do you buy the Clow hydrants from?
Winwater usually, yeah.
Oh,
We were
this
right
is the
at
one we did
Prescott, but-
before.
Yes, you just have to, other side,
Oh,
and then he has to sign it, that's all. George, if you can just sign that for me, please.
your signature on there.
motion to
What is
adjourn,
this
Mr. Chairman?
Huh?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.